Hyperdrive now.
The desert has called them. As dawn breaks, on a new adventure, the world is changing. This is the race for the planet. Extreme E is back. Fully electric off-road racing, where equality is true, and legends face a new generation. We're here to make a difference, to highlight the damage, pioneer technology, and leave a lasting legacy. As we accelerate towards a better tomorrow, our electric odyssey begins here, where the blazing heat disorientates and the sands shift. Focus your mind. Remember why you race. The Desert X Prix is waiting.
Yes, hello and welcome to Extreme E. This is Season 2 and we're all set to go racing again to see who will be the fastest, the most agile, the most willing to risk it all for victory. And it all starts in the stunning deserts of NEOM, Saudi Arabia. I'm Jenny Gow, alongside me is Andrew Kolu.
Yeah, last year Rosberg X Racing picked X44 to the title. This year we've got 3 teams returning with a different lineup and a brand new team joining us too. Let's take a look at our lineup.
Extreme E has seen the world's best racing talent come together, where each team consists of 1 female and 1 male driver.
Season 1 winners Rosberg X Racing, founded by F1 champion Nico Rosberg, are back to defend their crown. 4-time and reigning World Rallycross champion Johan Kristoffersen returns, but this year he'll be joined by Michaela Arling-Kotlinski, who makes the move from JBXE. Can this new lineup retain the championship title?
Looking to dethrone the champs is Lewis Hamilton's team, X44. 9 times World Rally champion Sebastian Loeb will partner Cristina Gutierrez.
Jutta Kleinschmidt returns for Abt Cupra XE. The only female driver ever to win the Dakar Rally has a new partner for Season 2 and is joined by 4-time and reigning Dakar Rally champion Nasser Al-Attiyah.
2019 World Rallycross champion Timmy Hansen and teammate Katie Munnings will race again for Genesis Andretti United in 2022.
With all the pace but none of the luck, Chip Ganassi Racing will be looking for consistent results in Season 2. The All-American outfit having retained the services of drivers Kyle LeDuc and Sarah Price.
2 times World Rally champion and 4 times Dakar Rally winner Carlos Sainz, Acciona Sainz, will see El Matador once again pairing up with Laia Sanz. Veloce Racing have a new driver lineup. Christine Giampaoli Zonka makes a move from XITE Energy Racing and is alongside South African racer Lance Woolridge.
With Christine GZ moving on, XITE Energy Racing will see Oliver Bennett return alongside 21-year-old Swedish rallycross prodigy Clara Andersson.
Jensen Button's team JBXE and their driver Kevin Hansen will be looking to extend their podium streak in 2022, and with reigning champion Molly Taylor swapping teams from Rosberg X Racing, they'll be full of confidence that they have what it takes to make a claim for the title.
Last, but certainly not least, is a brand new entry from motorsport royalty McLaren. American off-road racer Tanner Faust partners Kiwi driver Emma Gilmore, who is McLaren's first ever female racing driver.
With 32 FIA World Championships shared between the teams and drivers, the stage is set for a dramatic Season 2. But who will lift the trophy?
Well, an amazing lineup for Season 2, absolutely stellar. Great to see some drivers moving teams, new team coming as well. McLaren can't wait to see how they go. This, of course, is their first challenge of the year. We're back in Saudi Arabia, but it's a new venue, NEOM, a little bit further away, a little bit earlier in the season. Jenny, we even had rain overnight.
Yeah, heavy rain has affected the track, which means it's going to liven it up even more. You can see there a ridge line and then through the canyon where they can use their hyperdrive. Of course, remember, They get 1 5-second boost through the course of each lap that they do, and that can make a big difference where they use it.
Yeah, this is the Continental Traction Challenge. Remember, there are 5 championship points up for grabs for the fastest team to do that at any point during the weekend. Track development sometimes means you can only do that early in the weekend. We're not sure yet. And then look at that steep run down towards the finish line and the switch zone. It really is a great track, and it rewards commitment, let's say.
Well, I'm down here with Rosberg X Racing and joined by team principal Kimo as well. And we have to ask the question that I think all of the fans at home will be asking, and that is, of course, the driver switch. What was the motivation between changing a championship winning team?
Well, first of all, it has to be said that Molly is obviously a wonderful driver, and she was a great asset for us last season. And we are really grateful and remain grateful for the contribution she made for our title campaign last year. Now, whilst the decision was very, very difficult for our management to be made, given the success we had last season, ultimately we decided to go for the switch in our driver lineup.
Absolutely, and we can now reveal the drivers. Michaela and Johan are here with us as well. Michaela, welcome to Rosberg X Racing. How excited are you to crack on with this season, with this new team?
Thank you, not so much. I mean, to be in the championship winning team is a great opportunity for me, also to drive together with Johan. I mean, we started well yesterday, so we feel confident for today.
And Johan, coming to you as well. Obviously, it's rained heavily overnight. Not quite what you expect from the desert, is it? More likely to be in Julius or something in the rallycross world. How do you think this course will have evolved overnight?
I think it will be even faster. I think with the rain, the sand has more grip and more compact. Less dust, of course. But now we've decided to do time trial this morning instead, and then we switch back to heats this afternoon. So, but it might be some more changes coming up, but we will just try to adjust and do our best from what they put on us.
And a lap each in free practice tomorrow. What were your thoughts on your new teammate?
Yeah, she did fantastic. I mean, we try to work as hard as we can and, you know, adapt quickly to the track. And Michaela drove season 1 as well, so we have some experience, both of us, from last year. So we try to put everything in one bag and do our maximum.
Excited to see how you guys get on today. Best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, superstar.
Well, qualifying is underway in Saudi Arabia already. We've had 4 cars go through this morning. We've got a further 6 to come for you live in just a few moments, but it was Abt Cupra who were off the line first of all, with Jutta Kleinsmith taking the wheel for the first run.
Yeah, heavy rain overnight, and you can just see the sand, the dark red sand, which means there's not a lot of dust out there kicking up behind the car, and it means also that they're getting different lines. You can really see the difference as well.
Well, grip levels are up as well, Jenny, aren't they? We saw Jutta come in. She didn't look like she was super happy into the switch zone. Alatia jumping in for his run, and he went absolutely maximum attack immediately. Now, Alatia's won the Dakar 4 times. This guy is an amazing rally driver. He's got an incredible history in rallying generally. Unfortunately, it's his first time in Extreme E, and he missed the finish line. Now, Jenny, he looped back round, and we think probably should have just taken the penalty for missing a gate.
Yeah, it's probably more costly to loop round. 35 seconds, we think, was the time that it took him to do that. So no penalty, because that was enough. Next up, it was the Chip Ganassi team in that Hummer EV. Kyle Leduc taking to the wheel, and as ragged as ever. It just looked like he was throwing the car around in the most beautiful way.
Yeah, he was fully on top of it, wasn't he? A lot of handbrake up at the top of the hill. We're seeing some big ruts in the braking zone up there, and that's partly the wet sand as well. It clanks it together a little bit more, and then you get ruts on that zone, but a problem for them in the switch zone, Jenny.
Yeah, they dropped one of the safety barriers in the bay, unfortunately for them, so picked up a 5-second penalty during that time, but Kyle did a really good job to set up Sarah for her run out there, and you can just see the different terrains. This through the rock section, a hard turn right where the sand's really churning up.
And that's what we mean about the line. Now, yesterday, Kyle Leduc actually told us that this sand isn't great for sliding in because it's a little bit heavier. You can hook a wheel into it and end up rolling the car. So there's a lot of time to be gained here, I think, Jenny, on this whole course by taking big risks. But if you get it wrong, a lot of it is very fast. Look, as we ride on board here with Genesis Andretti United, you can have a big off if you get it wrong. But it's big risk, big reward in terms of lap time.
Yeah, this was the first driver pairing to be confirmed for this season. They remain in the same driver pairing as well. So Munning's team's up with Timmy Hansen, who's got a new haircut for this year. Maybe that'll make him go a bit faster.
Yeah, he's gone with the buzz cut. I had a bit of a laugh with him about that a couple of weeks ago at the Racing Champions. He said it's just so good to get up and not have to do anything with his hair in the mornings.
Just have a look at this, though. Unfortunately, they didn't get into the bay properly, so they picked up a 5-second penalty as well, because they have to go fully into that switch zone bay.
They're being quite harsh, aren't they, the stewards? But they've made a marker immediately at the start of this weekend, and the teams will now have to make sure they get it right. That area for me is the most rutted. Look how long Timmy had to wait on lock before he could get going, and then down at the bottom of the hill, that's somewhere else where I think you could see someone dig in and pitch the car over if they're not careful.
So crosses over the finish line, really good time set for them. First out of the 3 cars, and then X44. They're proven to be demons at qualifying, taken top qualifying spot every time we've seen them out there.
Now, you may have heard Gutierrez there using the hyperdrive off the start line. Interestingly, we've seen that used in many different places around this course. So yesterday, Tanner Faust used it for McLaren really early on one of the flat planes and carried the speed across it. This morning, we saw Kyle Leduc use it up one of the hills, of which there are a couple of really steep hills. So interesting to see Gutierrez use it off the start. Lots of tactics, I think, will come into play with that. Look how late he came to the car.
I know, Sebastian Loeb limbering up, getting ready to go out there. A second trip out in the sands of Saudi and the desert. But I tell you what, he took it absolutely to the edge and almost beyond. Get your eyes on this. Sebastian Loeb doing what he does brilliantly, but not getting it perfect.
That was the moment you spotted earlier, Jenny, wasn't it? You made a similar noise the first time you saw it. It was absolutely fully lit on the limit stuff from Loeb, and they go fastest so far.
Well, look at it. It's such a stunning background, isn't it? Rain's starting to come down now as well. We're live, and the race is about to get underway for RXR. Remember, a change of crew out there. Arlen Kotelinski, but first in, it's Johan Kristoffersen. He takes the line. This is qualifying, and this is seeing what he can do against Sebastian Loeb. A lot of timing's pretty similar at the moment as well. So he knows what he's got to do. The focus is out there, and you can just see, look, rain coming down. There's heavy clouds in the sky as well. This is different to the conditions we thought we were going to get.
Yeah, it's very much. I mean, wipers on, look, you can actually see rain on the screen for Kristoffersen. I think the other thing that's interesting, Jenny, is something we should go over for people who haven't watched so far, is who is in the car now affects who will be in the car in each session for the rest of the weekend. So I think 6 of the teams have gone with their male driver first, is it? And 4 of the teams have gone with their female driver first. So whoever's in the car now first will be in the car in the semi-finals of the Crazy Race.
Yeah, and then obviously the other driver taking the line for the final if they make it that far. So just a reminder, the way that this weekend is going to work. We've got single car in qualifying 1. Later on, it'll be the qualifying 2 sessions, and they'll go out in groups of 5. So 2 different ways of qualifying, which I'm really looking forward to. And you can see just how much the course is really starting to rut up. This, the bumpy section, as they loop back on themselves with a hard right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more racing this season, definitely during qualifying. But point system will explain to you later on, but they accumulate points which give them their positions. The top 6 go through to the 2 semi-finals. The bottom 4 end up in the Crazy Race. Only 1 car goes through from the Crazy Race, so that will be properly crazy, I think, this year. Yeah. Different lines. Look at these big tufts of grass. Remember what happened to Sarazan last year when he got it wrong on one of these?
Yeah, if you hit them, unfortunately, it can do some damage to the car. It can flick you over on the side. Some of the drivers saying it's not quite as bad as when we were out in Alula last year. It's a different kind of grass, but we will wait and see. There's certainly, I think, Andrew, plenty of hazards out there to trip up the drivers.
Yeah, there are. Watch this left-hander now. They carry a lot of speed through. Wait till Johan pick up the throttle again immediately on the exit, and there's definitely more grip with the dampness in the sand. You can see it in the colour of it. It's a much darker colour than it was yesterday. If any of you watched the Shakedown show, you can catch that as well if you want to see what went on yesterday. But they're just carrying more speed. So Johan takes the tight line there and then runs the car out wide. Those wide lines you can see are actually from Nasser Al-Attiyah and Kyle Leduc, who both took a really wide sweeping line. So multiple lines through there, and I hope that's going to mean good racing later.
Yeah, I think it'll be exceptional racing later. Don't know if the weather's going to hang around and keep on going, but you can just see there Johan looking down, puts in hyperdrive. That gives him the extra boost of power, so he can take in as much speed as possible. 3 jump sections over this weekend as well. You can see this is the flat plane before going up, arcing round some of those big sand rocks, and then coming up to the big descent drop.
So Tanner Faust used his hyperdrive yesterday in the same place on that short run downhill. The advantage of using it early there is you carry the speed through the entire long flat plane section afterwards. So in theory, let's say it's worth 10 kilometers an hour for the whole run. Now what Kyle Leduc did is he waited for one of these long uphill sections where you can hear the car is, you want to really fight the hill, and he used the hyperdrive on the way up the hill. So we're not sure yet which of those is the faster option, but I'm loving seeing everybody try. Also, look at the rain, heavy rain now. Heavy rain in NEOM. Kristoffersson late on the brakes, got to get it stopped on that super steep downhill and into the switch zone.
Yeah, we've seen quite a lot of infringements so far in that switch zone coming down the hill. Obviously, we already saw that Nasser Al-Attiyah went through the wrong gate, so you've got to get it right. We've had penalties or problems for every team so far. But Johan Kristoffersson, let's just take a little look at some of the action when he was out on track. Just looks magnificent, doesn't it, out there? A few different body designs this year.
Yeah, new liveries for nearly every team.
That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, no, it's all right. It's all good, mate. It's early. Well, it's early here in the UK. It's a bit later in Saudi. But yeah, we've got two new bodyworks, though, haven't we? So the Cupra Tavascan's got a new body, and of course the Hummer EV had its own bodywork last year as well. That's the only thing at the moment that the teams are able to change. Other than that, the cars are the same, except for setup. And we know last year X44 and RXR were particularly good at dialing the car in, weren't they? There was some testing late last year as well on some new dampers. There's a big upgrade coming to these cars after this event. And if you're watching last year, they had a big upgrade prior to the UK, and that really helped reliability, Jenny, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They could be able to push a little bit harder, and that's what all the teams want to do. They want to push as hard as possible. Now, Johan Kristoffersson. This is one of the downsides of not having Molly in the car anymore. So Molly Taylor won the championship with Kristoffersson last year. They're not staying in there. So the team changes. It's Arlen Kotlinski that goes in. They both speak Swedish, so we can't work out what they're doing. But you can see the counter on the side in red gives them 45 seconds on the board, and off she will go as soon as that ticks down to 0 and everybody has cleared a space. They look happy.
I'm going to say, look how chilled out they are. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I love the counter there. Look at that, and then go. So they can't, basically, she has to sit with the car in neutral, doesn't she? What's the switch time? Is it 45? Either way, job done. That little clock there allows her to see exactly when she can leave.
Johan, 6 seconds up on the rest of the field after that run. Is that enough, do you think, to maintain the lead?
Yeah, I'm confident that Michaela will do a good run. So yeah, I think that should be all right. It's difficult to manage the risks, but I tried to be clean and not taking too big risks. So that's it.
We shall see. Thank you. Off to command centre.
So Laura Winter down in the pit lane for us this season, and she will be covered in that thick red sand by the end of this weekend. She'll be finding it in her boots forevermore, but she will be getting us all of the scoops, all of the reaction as the drivers come into the switch and as the weekend progresses.
I was loving on social media watching the drivers come back from the track walk. Now actually this time, for the first time, they were allowed to use a car for some sections, but not for the steep hills. I think it was Katie Munnings who poured her boots upside down, having been on the track with literally about a litre of sand. I'm guessing that's how we measure sand, I don't know. Fell out of her boots. So yeah, it's not an easy place to go for a wander. Kyle Leduc as well, a Hollywood performance of, can I see water in the distance? You can see water today, maybe not on Recce Day, but yeah, there's that rocky section, top of the hill, and here's where a lot of the teams have been using the handbrake.
Yeah, how much difference will it make for the drivers? Because obviously everything they've done so far has been in very different conditions. Now all of a sudden rain's coming down. It must feel very different for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this, each of these corners, remember, they've only done 1 lap each yesterday in free practice. Now they're onto their first proper competitive lap, and suddenly the conditions have completely changed. That's, off-road motorsports like that. The track is always evolving, whether it's rally, cross, extreme, the Dakar. It evolves all the while. Look, you can see it. And that's one of the things I love about it, is it's how quickly the drivers adapt to the conditions and the track surface to maintain their pace. And you heard Johan say, I felt I managed the risks well. And that's the risks. Look at that. Michaela having there to fight the car, gets offline. One little kick like that, she's probably now, I'm afraid, lost quite a few seconds. Watch down the bottom right corner when we get to the next split, and we'll see. She was, yeah, okay, loses a second.
Not as bad as we feared it might be, but she's doing a really good job. I'm really impressed by her season 1 performance, and she's been picked up by RXR. I think it's a real stamp of the difference it can make with your driver pairings, how important it is to have the right pairing in your car, because you've got to remember they've got to set the car up for both drivers so that they can both perform at their very best.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that they chose Arlen Kotlinski, because I think it's fair to say, to Molly's credit, that she was the benchmark last year, certainly at the start of the season. But by the end of the season, Jenny, and one of the things that's been brilliant about this series is that we saw the female drivers come on in leaps and bounds. And by the UK, it was really hard to pick between them, wasn't it? They were absolutely flat out, all of them. And that, I think that was enough to turn the heads of RXR towards Michaela, who finished the season very strong. She took some big old risks in the UK, though. Do you remember that moment she had? Super sideways for JBXE.
It was great. I love it. Fully committed and having fun out there. And I think her pairing of her and Johan will be a very popular one and very positive. Traction challenge, you can see up in the corner at the moment, it's the Genesis Andretti United team who have got fastest. That will be a decider for any teams that are split on the same times and points over the weekend. And it will also be the addition of 5 extra points for the championship. So really important play.
Kotlinski coming down to stop the clock. Let's see if they go quickest over the line. And they do, 9:03.6. And I think they're the first team that hasn't had an investigation for the switch zone. So it looks like RXR go to the top of the table. If that's the case, that puts them ahead of X44. Of course, they're arch rivals from last year who took the TQ everywhere. But remember, it is the results of both Q1 and Q2 that decide the qualifying positions.
Look how relaxed they look. They enjoyed that. I think everybody out there is finding this track really interesting to get stuck into because it's different.
Michaela Arlen Kotlinski as well, Jenny. Imagine the relief. You know, you've been signed by the champion team. You know the job they did last year. You know, there are going to be comparisons between her and Molly Taylor. It's inevitable. Molly was the champion with Johan, and she's taken over that seat, and she's done a great job on her first run, and that just lifts the pressure. That was the rucks. Now watch, I think this is the mistake. So she's coming up to the long left-hander. Is this where it was? Up the hill, and then it sweeps. Oh, no, this is the right later on. So yeah, there was the one mistake where she tried to carry the speed through the corner and just got slightly sideways. As you say, only cost her a second in the end. I thought it might cost more.
No, look, thumbs up from her big smile as well. That's lovely to see. So she's obviously enjoyed her time out on track. Quite a short track this time, 6.9 kilometres. I think it's going to be... We haven't seen any carnage yet, let's put it that way. And everybody was expecting to see somebody take it to the limit, maybe take it too far. But actually, maybe with that little bit of rain that we've had, well, quite a lot of rain that we've had overnight, it's just changed the dynamics slightly.
The grip's up, isn't it? But the thing is, that means if you do get too sideways, the sand won't collapse as quickly, and then you're going to dig in and go over. But let's see. Let's see. The teams will be running different tyre pressures as well. So Continental with a new tyre this year, which is made from recycled PET plastic bottles, and I think then rice husks, isn't it? I mean, it's clever stuff, it really is. But it's also, from a performance point of view, it's more versatile, it's stronger, and they give the teams an area of what pressure they can put into the tyres. And Jenny, that'll make a difference. You said earlier on when we were watching, before we were on air, we were watching the first 4 runs about the difference in maybe we felt Loeb's set up in terms of tyre pressures. Yeah, how much is it going to dig into that sand? I still think this course will claim somebody this weekend.
Our courses always claim somebody over the course of the weekend, don't they? They're fairly brutal. So just a reminder of where we are. We've already seen 5 cars going out on track. The first car up was, of course, the Apt Cupra. We had a mistake from Alatia, who missed the end gate, had to loop back. So that's cost them dearly, unfortunately. We're just taking a little look at RXR being out there on track. Next up, it was Chip Ganassi. They need their bad luck to disappear if they're going to do well this time out. The Genesis Andretti United team picked up a 5-second penalty as well. In fact, as Andrew said, only one team hasn't so far, and that's this car, RXR. X44 as well went out there, had a really good, solid start to the weekend, but picked up a 5-second penalty too.
I think it's worth noting, if we look, it's a 9:03.6 for RXR, and the other teams would all be within 6-7 seconds of that without the penalties. Let's hear from Michaela.
Michaela, smiles, high fives all round as you came back in the car here. Just talk us through that run. You are quickest so far and no penalties, most importantly.
It feels really good. I mean, it's the first qualifying with the new team, and like I say, cooking so far, so it feels good. We were really cautious to make sure we didn't get any penalties, because the other teams did. Had a bit of a moment before waypoint 13, but yeah, I managed to figure it out, and it's all good.
When you came back in and spoke to Johan, I couldn't understand what you were saying, but you went bump, bump, which I think pretty much sums up Extreme E in this course, doesn't it?
It does, actually. The thing is, the track changes so much from every run you go, especially now with the damp sand. It gets really bumpy, so I think from now on it's going to be hard to take the Sector 2 Super Sector Continental Traction Challenge.
And just a word on the rain as well, because the rain started coming down again when you guys were heading out. Did that change the course from what you were seeing on the screens this morning?
It's hard to know. I mean, it was different compared to yesterday, so it's hard to know whether it was better for the others or for us. I don't know. But in the end, yeah, you take what you deal with and do the best, and that's what we did.
Thank you, Michaela. Well done. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Laura Winter with the questions there to Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski, and understandably happy at the moment because her and Johan Kristoffersen top the leaderboard.
A few nice slow-mos now of their run. Take a look at the different colours in the sand. We spoke about this a lot last year. You know, you see this on gravel, you see it on sand. The drivers read the colour of the dirt, particularly in damp conditions, to see what the grip levels are like. Probably the UK was the most obvious last year in terms of, is it gravel or is it mud? You know, and that's really a rally thing. In the desert, a lot of these drivers won't have experienced much in the way of sandy conditions. Yeah, they come from rally or rally cross backgrounds, and unless you're Nasser Al-Attiyah, who regularly competes in conditions like this, you're maybe not so good at reading sand. But RXR have done a great job, and without the penalties, gone fastest so far. That's the only bit of rock on the whole course.
It's a good bit of rock, though, isn't it? It really just takes it out of the car. They're so demanding on these Odyssey 21 cars, on, as you say, the Continental tyres as well, but handled masterfully. And then round to the right, you can just see the sand digging up, flinging out to the left-hand side.
That's the most rutted area of the course at the moment. Look how deep it is on the car, and you can see just up onto two wheels, but it's low speed, so the risk of going over, not quite so much. I'm keen to see, here is, round to these two, so this is where we've seen the two different lines. On the left earlier on we saw Sarah Price and Newton Kleinsmith go. On the right hand side was a line that Nasser Al-Attiyah and Carl Leduc took. Johan, in fact, Kristoffersen took the first part of the corner on the inside and the second part on the outside, but that's those multiple lines. These gates, or waypoints as we call them, whatever you like to call them, gates, they're very wide at certain points on the course, Jenny, meaning that later we should see some great racing across areas like this, and the drivers have indicated that while they have a favoured line, there are alternate lines available.
You can just see how much they have to wrestle the wheel as well as they come up to the crest. A lot of blind crests, 3 big elevated sections here. Not getting too much air, but you can just see, from the onboard, just how aggressive it is, and you really have to try and just hold on. I mean, look at that. For dear life, Michaela is getting crossed up there. I don't know if that would be the ideal technique for doing that.
It's really physical, and sand really fights you. And, you know, don't forget there's a lot of momentum in these wheels and tyres. You know, you've got big wheels and tyres on the car, so any deflection, it comes quite hard at you back through the steering. I love that, the jump over the thing, and then the paddock appears in the middle of the desert. It's awesome, isn't it, up to the finish line. Braking so hard for this switch zone. That's where Al-Attiyah went the wrong side. He went into here, and if he'd, Jenny, if he'd finished and just taken the 5-second penalty for missing that finish gate, you know, in theory, he might have been right up there, but instead they've ended up down in P5, and Nasser was punching the wheel, wasn't he? Not aggressively, he was disappointed. Look at that.
Little sand dune bug beetle. Love it. There's so much nature and wildlife. And actually, I was speaking to Professor Richard Washington this morning to talk about the impact and the rain that came down, because I wasn't really expecting there to be much rain, and I was asking through the scientific committee what they thought, and actually, because of global warming and climate change, it means that that rain that does at the moment brush through the desert and mean that people can live there, it make it able to be
habitable.
Habitable?
That's the one.
That doesn't make sense. Anyway, that will potentially disappear, and it means that places like this would become totally unhospitable. You wouldn't be able to be there at all, and that means the desert grows bigger, and then people have to move. Whole urban conurbations will be forced out. So it's really interesting. There's plenty on the Extreme E website if you want to have a look at it in more detail and get the right wording.
What was fascinating for me there, it was very good, Jenny, I liked it.
Thanks so much.
I think what's fascinating for me is you don't necessarily think there's going to be that much rain in the desert, but there is. Emma Gilmore with McLaren.
Well, Emma, McLaren set to make their competitive debut today. You, their first ever female driver. How are the nerves?
Better than yesterday, actually. It was such a getting it off the back yesterday, going out and actually getting a pre-practice time down. It was just it's always so nerve-wracking not having seen the track at speed. So once you get that out of the way, feel a little bit happier. And yeah, now I'm just really excited about qualifying day.
Thank you very much. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Emma finally got home. If you watched last year, you'll remember she was literally stuck in Europe because, of course, New Zealand had super strict border restrictions thanks to COVID, but she finally got home for about 6 weeks just after Christmas. And thankfully, I think everybody is relaxing their restrictions a bit. And so drivers like Molly Taylor and Emma Gilmore will be able to maybe go home in between rounds. And that,
Bet she spent the whole 6 weeks doing her washing.
Yeah, probably.
Right, JBXE lining up, ready to go. It's Kevin Hansen, Molly Taylor. This is a new combination for JBXE. Quite a point of interest. You've gone from one Formula One drivers team with Rosberg to Molly going across to Jenson Button. Let's see what they can do out there on track. 6.9 kilometres awaits them.
Kevin Hansen at the wheel for the first leg. Yesterday it was his mum, Susan Hansen, who was actually in the command centre, so that'll be a familiar voice to Kevin from his rallycross competitive days. Mum and Dad, Kenneth and Susan running that team. So Kevin off the line. And Molly Taylor to take over. Molly, a late deal, wasn't it, for the champion, our female champion, to be back in the series. And I'm really pleased she's here, Jenny, because I think it's important that she was here as the champion, really.
Absolutely.
You know, any champion that goes, but particularly our first female driver, if she wasn't here, I'd have been a bit, So I'm glad she's back, and like Michaela had a point to prove in the RXR car, Molly's got one to prove here as well.
Yeah, she was queen of rolling, wasn't she, last year? She took some big old shunts in the RXR car, so maybe the setup of the car for JBXE will be slightly different. Maybe it'll be a little bit friendlier for her. But I'm intrigued to see this combination of how they can get out there. I think it's a pretty feisty team pairing.
I would say Molly at the start of the season was the benchmark. She was so far ahead at some points. I think we were like, wow, this is an absolute given. You know, they're going to walk away with the series. As the season went on, the other female drivers definitely got closer to Molly, but I wonder if Molly's confidence was swamped somewhat knocked by those two rolls. Both of them were unlucky. You know, I wouldn't say either of them, oh, look, Molly made a mistake. Personally, I think she just got caught out by what a number of the drivers say is quite a tricky car. You know, it's, whoa, Kevin there. I thought he was going to run wide, but he didn't. Committed up the top. He's only 2.37 off, gritting his teeth on the way down. So yeah, she got caught out a couple of times, but she, you know, she was the benchmark, as we've said many times, and I'm just pleased to see her back. And she'll want to jump in this car and compare herself, won't she, to that RXR lap time. She'd love to go quicker with Kevin. I think as a pairing, they're capable of it.
I just wonder, it's such a strange thing, isn't it, motorsport, especially when it's a small paddock like this where everybody's together, they're all on the St Helena, on the ship as well at times, that you kind of have to get on with everybody regardless of the background. And as this championship continues to grow and evolve, we're going to have more of that sort of dynamic that feeds into this championship.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think there aren't too many grudge matches yet. You know, you get more of that.
I'd like to think there were loads,
well,
but I know there probably are.
No, but you know what I mean? The more they race, and don't forget that qualifying this year is going to have much more racing in it. You know what it's like, Jenny, from the F1 stuff. The more drivers come together, and by that I mean contact, moves that somebody doesn't appreciate. I don't like what you did there. I don't think you gave me enough respect. The usual thing. That's when it starts to build a little bit. But you know, there won't be any beef between Molly Taylor and Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski. They'll both want to prove they're faster than the other one. That's just drivers' nature. And it was a management decision at RXR to change drivers. And so for that reason, you know, Molly's not going to have anything against Michaela, but she'll definitely want to beat her.
Absolutely right. Hyperdrive employed by Hansen as he gets some speed up over this flat section before looping round to the right and taking on our elevator and then the summit. It's such a spectacular track. Just look at that.
In the background, you can see deep ruts there where it's really dark, and that's that compression. So as the cars go through, another good example of the compression will be the bottom of this hill, but also the big one for me is the one at the finish line. You know, you see the car squat really hard, and as it squats like that and the weight goes into the ground, you just see the ruts build up a bit. There's another good example too, bottom of the hill, really leaning on the car, just digging that sand out. And then you get onto the flatter sections where people are taking slightly different lines and it's not quite so rutted up.
So as we round our way, this is the summit. As Andrew was saying, compression points. You can get a little bit of air on there as well. Takes it round a little bit towards the left, ready to go into that switch zone. Don't go through the finish line at this point in time, so you can just see him correcting there.
Look how broken up the sand is in the background because they're having to brake so heavily on the hill. So, yeah, you're going against gravity, the weight of the car, the compression at the bottom. That's just going to get more and more rutted. A little replay of Kevin. There's those big grass tufts. I do think there are alternate lines here. Look how wide gate 6 is there, and you can't even see the other side of the gate. But it's where it funnels into and what the merge is like, and where those bits of grass are.
We're going to find out later on today, aren't we?
Yeah.
With 5-car qualifying for the second part, 2 heats. Points being given out, which will lead to an overnight classification.
Yeah, he was late on the brakes there, wasn't he? You can see he went on the brakes 2 or 3 times, judging the grip level, and then just launched the right-hand side of the car, but not too late. I think that's the limit, but I don't think he was too late.
Right on the limit, I think you're absolutely right.
Track's really good.
In the switch zone.
I think he said track's really good. So Molly jumps in, her seat insert goes in. That's to account for the different heights of the drivers. Big height difference between Johan we saw earlier and Michaela, and Molly and Johan had that last year. She plugs her comms in up on the top there, pulls the belts tight, and you see what a late deal it was. She hasn't even got JBXE overalls, so those are the overalls she wore on the Dakar rally this year. Really lovely early switch though, Jenny, and that means you've just got a little bit more chill time to gather yourself before you go. You don't want to have to rush that.
Yeah, you can see the adrenaline must be pumping. She knows what she's got to go out and do. So let's pop down to the paddock and the switch zone. Laura Winter there with a microphone for us this weekend and for the whole season.
Well, Kevin, I can sense in your body language a bit of frustration. 10 seconds down on Johan Kristoffersen's lap. How do you feel about it?
Well, I tried very hard to do my best, and I think it was a big improvement since yesterday. So step by step, no, I think it was a quite okay run. So for sure, it's a lot of commitment out there.
Thank you very much. Let you run to command centre.
Well, look, 10 seconds off, yeah, he's not where he wants to be, and Laura's probably read Kevin right, you know, she's worked with him before, but also he doesn't sound too disappointed, does he? And in what he said, Jenny, a lot of commitment out there. This is what I mean, we're maybe not seeing it yet, but at these high speeds, if it goes wrong, it's going to go wrong spectacularly, and it's probably going to be the end of your weekend. So do you want to risk that now in Q1 or not? I think maybe not, you know. So if you're not 100% confident, you just want to learn a little bit. Different place again. Look for the hyperdrive here. Molly's using it on that super long low flat plane, and she'll hope to carry that speed up the hill.
Yeah, I quite like them using it into Speed Valley. I think that's quite a cool place to do it. Our split screen, you can just see on board. Just coming up towards the rock section, you can also see Kevin just having a little look as well. Such a unique sport in the fact that you're grilling your teammates on. You're not there in the car sitting next to them. You're in the command centre, watching every moment of it from all the angles that they can, watching the timing as well. It must be more nerve-wracking, I think, being in command centre than actually in the car.
Definitely. There's no question about that, is there? It's when you're in the car, you're fully absorbed in what you're doing. When you're up there, you're watching and just thinking, oh, what's going on? Molly looks like she's offline there, doesn't she? But
yeah, I don't think she picked the right placement of the car, and it looks like it's really got bogged down in the sand going through this. I think she's going to lose some time there. She's taken a very different line.
Well, we'll find out, won't we, once we get to the splits, whether it was good or bad. Now they've lost another 10 seconds from the looks of things.
It's very strange. That car doesn't look like it's going full beast, does it?
I agree. I wonder if there was an issue there.
We shall find out. But anyway, Taylor behind the wheel, and she's going to have quite a long trek out there. She knows what she's wanting to achieve in this car as she goes up through the section. This is where Olin Kotlinski had her problem. She was really struggling to hold on.
They've lost 5 seconds in that last sector, Jenny, and let's see when we get to the next sector. Just sounds to me, it sounds a bit like they're struggling for power. We might be completely wrong. You know, we're just looking at the same pictures you guys are, but for me, it's unusual to see Molly losing time like this. There's Susan Hansen on the left. That's Eric Fahren in the middle. So Eric was Sebastian Loeb's spotter in the World Rallycross Championship and has worked with the Hansen team for a long time. So Eric and Susan on the radio there, it looked like Eric was on to Molly.
That's strange though, because she's just deployed hyperdrive supposedly. So there's a little bit of confusion there because you're only allowed to use it once through a track, and we thought she'd used it going through Speed Valley, but that car definitely doesn't sound particularly healthy. You can see the brakes going on. Rolling around.
Definitely an issue when you look at hemorrhaging time. There's not a lot of speed. The only thing that occurs to me is it steering? Because we know we've had power steering issues. So we had broken steering before, but on board with Molly, she's able to move the steering pretty well. You remember last year, you could see when someone was being physical with it, and she's not, but they're losing a lot of time. So definitely, I think, an issue with the car.
Yeah, this is unfortunate because we all wanted to see what she could do in the car specifically, but what this pairing could bring to the JBXE team, and now it looks like she's really having to just try and battle the car around. As you say, she's not having to pull extra hard on that wheel. It looks like it's turning fine. We shall get Laura to find out exactly what's going on when she gets back.
I was wondering if it was a puncture there for a second, looking at her steering inputs, but how much the car's understeering coming through there, unless she's lost drive to one end of the car.
Yeah, it looks like front right might be a little crabby, but it's hard to tell because the ruts, as you can see, the ruts are really deep out there. It's churning up very nicely. 10 cars going out there for this session. This is car number 6, so still quite a lot of running to do. She comes down. I think she'll be pleased and relieved to get this session out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. Look, making the finish when you've got issues is the most important thing. Got the car back, but that's disappointing.
Yucky, I think I would describe that as. I don't know if that's an official comment, but that was a yucky run, and I feel sorry for them. First problem that we've seen actually out on track.
A hard one to read, though, isn't it? You know, we often get a little bit more of a sign, you know, something in the car that we can see, like, let's say, power steering, whatever, but here, look, so she's completely offline on the right-hand side. It's like she's struggling to get the car to go to the left. The steering does look strange from the rear, doesn't it? But
I like those little lights on the back of the car, though, incidentally. At the top, the white lights shining brightly.
They've all got those, and I think that's for dust. I might be wrong, but I think it's so the drivers behind, if we have dust issues, have something to sight the cars by. I could be wrong.
Andrew Cully, you're never wrong.
Well,
don't go there.
You just, mate, I'm willing. Do you know what? I commit to stuff, and when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know,
fair enough.
It's fine. So that's what I'm guessing the rear lights are for. Definitely an addition from last year. Actually, on the Sainz off the line, this is Sainz.
Yeah, pairing up once again with the Matador, Carlos Sainz, but she takes to the car first, and she actually took part in the Dakar this season in a car, which has been her first experience of that. Dakar, of course, taking place in Saudi Arabia this year, and I think she really enjoyed it. It must be very difficult to make the crossover from 2 wheels, which is what Laia is traditionally known for, across to 4, but she's done it admirably well, I would suggest.
Yeah, she has. Good to see her making. She was fast as well again towards the end of last year. It looked like she'd lost her confidence a bit in the middle of the season, then it came back, and her and Carlos are a pretty fearsome pairing. Right, we're going to have a chat with JBXE in a moment and hopefully find out what happened with the car. Laia Sands activates her hyperdrive. All going well for her, but it didn't go so well for JBXE. Let's see if they have any ideas what was wrong.
Well, Molly, disappointing run there. What on earth happened? How was the car feeling? From the looks of things, steering was the issue.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Something in the rear broke when we got to the rocks. So from there, it was, yeah, had to drive it back. So I don't know what exactly happened. We'll have to have a look now.
How frustrated are you?
Yeah, it's not the best start. But yeah, I don't know what else you can do. So yeah, anyway, on to the next one.
I know we don't know the extent of the damage, but any idea if it's a fixable feat before Quali 2?
Yeah, I can't imagine it's anything too major, just maybe an arm or a shaft or something like that.
Great stuff, thank you. Hard luck.
Yeah, so we said, didn't we, thought she maybe lost drive just in the way the car was understeering coming through the corners. Normally you can use the throttle to make the rear of the car slide. She thinks maybe drive shaft. Remember, Jenny, on the first lap, Kevin hit the rocks very hard. We felt he was on the limit, and, you know, you don't know if the combination of both of them hitting the rocks hard broke it. you know, so hard to tell, but disappointing start.
At least it's kind of a comfort to know that there was a problem with the car,
yeah, of course,
because it was so slow, it had to kind of be. But you want that confirmed, don't you, when you get back, and just to make sure that you've not completely gone a little bit crazy. But yeah, so problem for JBXE. No problem out there at the moment for Leia Sands, though. She's doing a sterling job out there, just going through, keeping a line far to the left, actually. We've seen people drifting right over to the right-hand side there, but not for Leia.
So the people who've drifted over to the right have definitely taken a lot more speed through that left-hander. They then pulled the car back before the right. Now, in theory, the line that Leia took there should mean that the right-hander was quicker, and she goes off to the left look and avoids the ruts. And those ruts will suck pace out of the car, so expect people to do that more as the ruts get bigger. But that left-right combo it really interests me in terms of what the drivers are doing there, you know, why they're taking those lines. There are those deep ruts through the compression, up the hill, leave it as late as you can. You let the speed here will be retarded by the incline as much as it will the brakes. You want to float over the top of that and then back on the throttle on the exit.
When it comes to knowledge of sand, we've said that some of these drivers have a lot more than others, and Leia certainly has plenty of knowledge, because it doesn't really matter if you're on 2 or 4 wheels, you'll still know what you're looking out for. The rear view, just look, it's almost like water spray coming off the back of a boat with the sand kicking up behind her.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? We're lucky to have so many great onboards in Extreme E, and you're dead right, Jenny. I couldn't agree more with Leia. Her ability to read the sand. Yeah, when you're on a bike, don't forget, every time you fall off, you're risking injury. So they really have to read the road at very high speed. If any of you have ever watched the Dakar, it's ludicrously quick, the speed at which they ride. So she comes into the switch zone. Carlos Sainz waiting to take over.
Face of focus. Let's just have a look at this replay of Molly Taylor at JBXE. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, so you could hit, in the background you could hear the drone afterwards, but you could hear a crack, couldn't you? She hit the rocks.
Yeah, rear suspension.
Or drive
gone.
shaft, maybe. Suspension, is it? Yeah.
Yep, they knew the problem. Oh dear. Tough one.
Not a big repair, though. Quick repair, at least. So they'll be back out for Q2. But, you know, it's described on the track map as rock hazard, Jenny, and you can't just attack it flat out. So we've now discovered there is somewhere on the course that you've got to, not take it easy, but you've got to, again, judge your risk.
Do you know what? I tried to get out of one of these cars the other day. It's really not easy, and there is no way of doing it elegantly, I shall say that much. Leia Sands goes round to the corner to try and go through the other window and just help out Carlos to do this switch. They don't particularly like the switch, this team.
No, Carlos is not a big fan, is he? Carlos wanted longer for the switch last year, which I get, and it was changed at one event and then changed back again. I think it needs to be a challenging time, but they have also changed the rules, haven't they? Now you have to be out of the switch zone before the car moves. You have to have your radio plugged in. Your Hans device has to be under the belt. All little things that everybody was learning in season 1.
Nicely within that time, although they've been flagged to go. That was a bit of a longer hold than needed. I think Leia's saying what happened there. Yeah, we don't know either. It's gone now. It's fine.
Did he go early?
No, the clock had run down already. It was well over. It's very strange. Looked like about 5 seconds longer than needed to be in there, just waiting to go. But we will find out.
We will.
But I tell you what, he looked great yesterday in free practice, absolutely on the edge of it. And you can see, once again, he is gunning for it. And I think it's nice that he can be the chaser now. He can run down that time and see what he can do with it.
Yeah, you'd never bet against Carlos Sainz, do you? I mean, a full push from Carlos last year was a sight to behold. Light goes green at the bottom of your screen, means he's catching the fastest time through that sector. So can he catch 13? Well, it was 14, he's down to 13. But he's up against some very impressive competition that have gone before.
Oh, it just looks great with him behind the wheel, though, doesn't it? It's just so exciting to watch. I wonder, they haven't used hyperdrive yet, have they, in this section? I wonder where he'll choose to use that as well. I think deployment of that could be one of the essential parts, and I wonder if people will actually use that when it comes to the second part of qualifying, which will be more in a race environment, to try and overtake, to try and get out in front.
Well, I did wonder how much people would be using this for a recce run. You know, obviously you're not going to go slow, but you could risk, for instance, using the hyperdrive somewhere random to see if it works. to see if it allows you to take a different line. It's a big tuft of grass up there that we haven't seen as well. The rear shot there just showed us that. It's normally hidden by the cars as they come over the top. That's being kind of moved out the way. The other thing, Jenny, don't forget, is if you want to take the Continental Traction Challenge and the 5 points, you almost certainly need to deploy hyperdrive in that sector of the track. So some of the teams will be focusing on that because the 5 points, remember last year, they were crucial. It was almost came down to, well, it did come down, didn't it? X44 had the points and that equalled Rosberg, but they got it on countback.
That was thrilling, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. And, you know, we actually thought, didn't we, Johan might end up on the last lap having to go banzai for the 5 championship points in that Continental Traction Challenge. So it's a nice addition, I think, to the series. It appeared on round 2 last year, so we didn't have it here in Saudi Arabia last year. Although we did check the sector times. I think unofficially Carl Leduc took it. Yeah. But I'll have a look and see.
Look at that car bucking around so nicely, squirming under the hands of Carlos Sainz and in the sands of the Saudi Arabian desert.
I'm wrong, it was Christopherson. So unofficially he was quickest in Sector 2 last year, but of course we're actually in a different location entirely in Saudi. So every year you're going to have different tracks and different layouts. And as we've already discussed, Jenny, every corner changes every session anyway. So you don't get ultimate lap times in quite the same way in this sport as you do in circuit racing. There's that hyperdrive again for Sainz.
Yeah, and he actually took the far right-hand lane, so quite a different line to Elias. So they're obviously doing what they want to do, what they think is the best option for them and each driver, and it does change. It's not going to be the same for every driver. They like to attack things differently, and this is in the Continental Traction Challenge sector, so I just wonder, you can see there the current time at the moment is a 1:05.8 from Genesis Andretti United, and Axiona Sainz 5.46 seconds behind them, so not good enough to try and get those 5 points at this stage. We can see how tight it is at the top.
Carlos Sainz took a stage win earlier this year for Audi in the Dakar in their electric factory machine. The Dakar's taken on a bit of electric technology as well. Good to see him back here in the Axiona Sainz car. Ekstrom, of course, was in that Audi squad as well. Ekstrom has moved on from Extreme E. Oh! Huge moment for Sainz over the line. That's a compression. Wow, look at Elias, sigh of relief. Go on, Carlos.
That's one way to take it, isn't it? I bet his son's watching on going, Dad, be careful.
Whoa.
That was great. I think he's going to be 60 in the next week or so. There's no stopping him, though, is there?
No, that's what I mean. You know, winning stages on the Dakar, Jenny. You know, it's an incredible performance from the guy. Here we go. Have a look at this coming down the hill. The bottom. Jenny, I'm just imagining 2 or 3 cars side by side and who's got the most commitment into the dip. I mean, get some over the line. It's just brilliant, isn't it?
That's absolutely brilliant to watch. I'm going to say it again just because it's so good. This will wake you up, won't it? Oof.
There's actually a bump right in the middle, just so you can see it go. So it goes dip bump just where Carlos came across. On either side of it, it's flatter. So he's had a look. I mean, you know, that's maybe a recce, but wow.
It's one way of launching yourself through.
He's certainly still brave, isn't he? Eh? There's hope for us yet.
Is that like a dip finish if you're running in a sprint race?
It is, yeah.
Launch yourself off the line. I love that.
That's my favourite moment of the day so far. Go on, Carlos.
That and Loeb almost totaling the car with a total two-wheel.
Yeah, bicycling.
Amazing. Right, car 8. It is the XITE Energy team. We have Ollie Bennett. We have Tamara Molinaro as well. She's substituting this weekend. She's our championship driver, but she finds herself in the car, and what an opportunity this is for her.
We're actually seeing the onboard there from Veloce, so that's Lance Woolridge sitting in his car. But we're seeing the XITE car on the line. So Lance, obviously, you see Lance up next, I reckon. Yeah. Yes, he is. So that's good. So imagine sitting in the car for 15 minutes ahead of your run. He's having a little chuckle to himself. I don't think he can hear us on the telly.
Hello, if you can, though.
Yeah.
Looking great.
So it looks like Tamara's taking the first run here. She is. There is Tamara Molinaro. So championship driver. Now, there are 2 championship drivers. One is normally Timo Scheider, although he's not here this weekend. He did the track design a few months ago. And Romain Dumas, I think, is standing in for him at this event. And Tamara Molinaro is the other. Now, last year, you may remember, Jutta Kleinsmith was the championship driver. The idea is, should a driver fall ill, be injured, and of course, with last year COVID, this year too, to some extent, you can be replaced by the championship driver. So you borrow the driver, if you like, from Extreme E. Jutta Kleinschmidt was borrowed by Abt Cupra and then immediately signed because she was an absolute weapon in Senegal, wasn't she? So Tamara that won't be lost on her, will it? Tamara Molinaro standing in for Clara Anderson, who we'll talk about in a minute. It's gutting for Clara, a young Swedish rallycross driver who isn't here this weekend because of failing a COVID test. That's just rubbish for her because she's a really promising Jenny and they need these opportunities. Yeah, you have to feel for her at the moment. Now let's go back down to the switch zone and catch up with the Axiona Sainz team.
Carlos, a huge moment for you over the finish line there. I think Laia drew a sigh of relief when you came over the line safely. How was your run for you? Third fastest overall as things stand.
Not so clean. We lost a little bit of time here in the change. I was making a mistake with the button, and it took 4 seconds more than should be. But you know, at the end, I think it was okay.
Okay, will have to be enough for now. Good luck this afternoon. Thanks so much.
So mistake, as we called it at the time, said it took them about 5 seconds. It was actually the 4 seconds that Carlos Sainz said. But Laia Sainz picks up a penalty for speeding in the switch zone, unfortunately. So plus 5 seconds for them as well. So not the cleanest of rounds, I think it's fair to say.
I do just want to point out that without all these 5-second penalties, we would have 5 cars within 6.5 seconds of each other over 2 laps, which is pretty epic. So the pace is really close, but people have got to stop messing about in the switch zone. You know, it's the one bit of the track which is dead slow and zero risk. Get it right. You know, you don't want a 5-second penalty for something like that. I know that sounds really basic, but there will be people being told, get it right. Yeah, we'll forgive you for rolling the car at 100 clicks, but come on, push the button, get the speed limit right. That sounds harsh, I know.
I know you were a coach for ages, weren't you?
Yes,
I'm glad you didn't coach me. I think I would have been on a naughty step all the time. You would have permanently been angry with me.
You're a terrible driver.
I'm a great driver, but I don't think I'm your kind of driver.
I'm a great driver. That's the best. That's the quote of the day, isn't it? Get Jenny Gow in an Extreme E car. Come on.
Look, you've got to back yourself.
And me. Come on, you and me. We're going to do an event. We'll get somebody else to come do the commentary. We'll go and share a car. What do you reckon, mate?
Should we be championship drivers?
Yeah, definitely. We'll be a great team. We'll have a laugh anyway, won't we? I'm sure we'll end up with penalties in the switch zone, rolled cars, bits hanging off. We'll be immediately fired and relegated back to our little box. But
it would be a costly weekend, I fear.
It would, yeah, it would.
Hearts bill high. Anyway, Molinaro doing a cracking job out there. You can just see the sky with those heavy clouds, some of them laden with rainwater that's dumped itself on this course in Saudi Arabia overnight. A little bit this morning, that seems to have cleared up, but Tamara doing a really good job for the team, coming through switch. Now, get it right, as Coley said,
yeah,
or else.
Absolutely. So only 9 seconds off. Absolutely brilliant performance by Molinaro. You know, yes, she's a championship driver. She would have helped with laying the course out a little bit, but as soon as she was nominated to be the driver for XITE, all those responsibilities will be taken away because, yeah, you don't want them to have an advantage for it. Tamara, by the way, is a great rally driver. You know, she's competed up to WRC level. She's doing Italian Gravel Rally Championship at the minute. She is a brilliant peddler, and I'm pleased to see her in the car. My slight concern is if she's mega, you know, we're going to be looking for another championship driver. But
I was going to say we are clocking through championship drivers, but it's a really good concept for the championship to have these reserve drivers and a really good opportunity.
You know what? If I were a female driver right now, I'd be emailing the championship and saying, should you need a championship driver? And, you know, you just don't know. I'm really hopeful we see Clara in the car at some point this season because, you know, she was chosen. She did the rookie test last year with Axiona Sainz, and she was really unlucky. But, you know, also great to see Tamara. Tamara's going to be hoping this leads to a signing, of course. And, yeah, we'll see what happens.
A little bit of struggle to get out of that switch zone. Obviously, that's something that she's not used to doing in a racing environment because she's a championship driver, has not had to do it. So you can just see she's trying to help out Ollie Bennett to make sure.
It's not over, then it's okay. So I think she's talking about the belt over the top of the Hans device. There we go. And you can actually see as well, she's wearing the championship overalls, so she's in Extreme E colours. Great job by her. Fantastic drive. High fives all round from the team. They give Ollie the countdown and he disappears off.
Nice switch, actually. I thought that was good, considering that she's not done that before. I wonder how she found that, going out there and actually competing. We're going to go down there and find out. Laura Winter with the microphone. Let's find out what Tamara thought of her first competitive spin in Extreme E.
Tamara, the championship driver, stepping up for your competitive debut here in the wind and rain of Saudi Arabia, and you have delivered out there. I just said to you third fastest, and you pulled a face to go, oh, is that it?
Yeah, I'm always really hard on myself. I did a couple of mistakes still. But you see, it's all new for me. It's not easy even at the switch and everything, so yeah, quite happy.
Quite happy. Room for some more speed though?
A lot, yeah.
Here we go. That is ominous for the rest. Thank you very much to you, Tamara. Back to the command centre.
Well, they're right about that. Ominous. She wants to do better. She knows she can do better and expects more from herself. What a thrilling driver she is.
Yeah, she's brilliant, but also it's the right approach, Jenny. It's her first competitive run. Yeah, championship driver. You've been lent to the team because they need a driver. She's got a job to do. Don't forget, for XITE Racing as well. Bring the car home. And she's done that. She knows there's a little bit more risk out there. She could take a little bit more risk, but I definitely think that was the right approach. You imagine if she'd gone out there and binned it, trying to get that fastest time. So push more during the course of the rest of the weekend. I think it's a great benchmark for Tamara.
So let's see what Ollie Bennett can do then. He has gone through that rocky section, has to turn right, catching, which is a good sign for the XITE Energy team. Oh, look at it, just having to really fully lock the wheel round. That sand flinging up, and this section is one I think you can really pull back some time if you can get it right. Taking a really far left line to that, though. Very different from what we've seen before. Swings it round to the right and heads down this first elevation drop. Taking the right-hand lane. Which is he going to go? Through the middle? Yep.
Ooh, he changed his mind there, didn't he? I thought at the last second. So it's another super committed section again down here. Now through this section, you're constantly just making little adjustments on the wheel because of the way the car reacts to the ruts. Look, you can see they're actually fairly big adjustments. Now round to the left, you've got to carry the speed through, back on the throttle, watch him carry the speed through the corner. Nicely done. At the minute, P4 is where our screens are showing. Don't forget, there are a lot of people got a penalty over the line. And so I think potentially this could be one of XITE's best ever results if Ollie can maintain this pace.
Through the Continental Traction Challenge section, see if we can go as fast as anybody else. At the moment, the leading car still that of the Genesis Andretti United with a 1:05.810. That's the time he's chasing down in this sector to see if he can get himself an extra 5 points across the weekend. You can just see, look, the wheel of that car.
So Ollie at the minute's maintaining pace. This is a really good drive from Bennett. Now he uses the hyperdrive. You can see, look at the dust kick up from the back of the car immediately. I wonder where the rain's going if we're losing some of that dampness. It's not making a huge difference, but the desert isn't quite as orange as it was earlier on.
Yeah, that's true actually, isn't it? We had those big red ruts, and now it's starting to all look very similar, although if you speak to anyone who knows about geology, they'll probably tell us it doesn't look similar at all. What are you talking about?
That's fine.
Sorry.
Come on, Ollie. She's doing a good job here, he really is. Got to hold that pace through this long left-hander. Out wide of the ruts, not sure if that's the right thing to do or not. Loses maybe a second in that section. Their best ever qualifying performance was 5th in Saudi Arabia last year, but remember, a couple of people had big crashes in Saudi last year. They were 6th in Senegal and then 9th for the remaining 3 rounds last year. So Ollie, obviously different teammate. He had Christine GZ with him last year. Come on now, gun it down to the finish. Let's go. Looking at the times up on the board, I reckon they might just about get 4th. It's 5th, is it? So they slot into 5th place. Yeah, they're 2 seconds behind Chip Ganassi Racing. Now they did get a 5-second penalty, so okay, they're only 7 off that. They're within 7 seconds of low, but okay, 5 seconds again there. But that's a really strong performance by Bennett and by Molinaro.
Love that. Really good stuff from them. This is during the run. Oh, so chilled and relaxed, just saying hello to the camera. Well, hi. Back to you two. So relaxed.
I wonder if they tell you, did they say we're on board with you now, mate, with TB, and he's giving them a cheeky little wave.
Maybe.
Johan did the same yesterday, didn't he, in free practice, as we see Lance Woolridge off the line for Veloce. Did the UK round last year, really impressed, didn't he, Jenny? And the team signed him immediately for this year.
Yeah, he's really promising. He hasn't driven in sand before, though, the South African. So this is going to be a bit of a novel and new experience to him this weekend. Went out there yesterday and enjoyed it, but he said he had a lot to learn, I think.
Yeah, he's an off-road expert. It's quite surprising, isn't it, really? I mean, he's won his class and all sorts of different championships down in South Africa in off-road racing. You would think that he would have come across it, but, you know, it appears that that series maybe isn't in the sand quite as often as we would like to think. So,
he's going for it, though.
He was well committed. Do you remember, he lost loads of time in the UK, dropped back, and then fought back really impressively during the course of the race to get back on the tail of the cars in front. So, yeah, we know he's a guy who can push. Not so well known in Europe. He was so pleased as well. Like he said, all his family were watching back home, having a great time, and pleased to see him in. Yeah, this is international recognition for a driver who's got quite a lot of recognition at home, but nice for him to step out into a bigger arena.
I love the fact that people are breaking through in this championship as well. People that you may never have heard of before. You know, people do know Sebastian Loeb. They do know Carlos Sainz, but these are people that you might not have come across, and they are as spectacular, and they have, as you say, they've built up their own brands and their own success at home, but put them on a world stage, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You know, if I were a team owner, I might be looking as well and going, well, hello, you know, I wonder how much Sebastian Loeb costs, and then you go, hang on a minute, these guys are also quite close. Imagine the driver market, particularly as well, the female drivers. This is an opportunity for them to earn in motorsport. You know, it's very hard, Jenny, as you know, even up to the level of F1, for drivers to get paid. You know, a lot of the time they're taking money with them to these drives, whereas this series, a lot of the teams are paying the drivers to be there, and I just think it's a great opportunity for both the male and female, and the market, I think, will be really interesting. Just the changes over this winter, and looking forward to seeing what happens in future.
Well, Woolridge goes fastest of anybody out there in the Veloce car, the number 5 emblazoned on the side, and he is doing an absolutely sterling job. And he will hand over to Christine GZ, who we know is a pocket rocket, so much experience rallying. She will bring a huge amount to this partnership, and I'm really excited to see what they can do. I don't think they got the true Veloce spirit out of the car last season. Jamie Chadwick, brilliant in the single-seaters as hyperdrive is deployed, but we know for most of these drivers out there, circuit racing isn't the background you need really to achieve what you want to do in these cars.
My favourite thing, though, is seeing a circuit racer learn off-road, because I think they come to it, you know, not quite sure what it is, and then I think they love all the different aspects of it. You know, sliding a car around, reading the road surfaces, the fact you're not working with a degree of this and a degree of that, 1 millimetre of this, you know.
We're so different, aren't we?
Yeah, but
I love it.
Yeah, me too, and I do love the fact that this championship, you are actually able to perform coming from a circuit racing background. Woolridge runs the car quite wide, but look at that, takes a completely different line. Is he a long way off camber there, or has he found a bit more exit speed? That's a completely different line than anybody else. Look, fresh tracks all the way around the outside of the rocks. So Woolridge has taken a completely different line. They're 2.9 down now, but will that time be made up as he runs down to the switch zone? Going to brake super late here. Oh, look at the compression.
Oh, look at that. So 2.78 seconds down, but that was a really good drive from Lance Woolridge, and you can just see here sliding down. The back gets a little bit loose on him as he comes around to 22, and I wonder if actually his placement there was a mistake rather than intentional.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? I mean, there is one set of lines through there, but I mean, there's no set. There is, look, it's old. There's an old set of lines there in the sand, but regardless, it didn't cost too much time, and if those ruts continue to get deeper, Jenny, there is a point at which maybe it will get faster. You know, a bit like the wet line and the dry line, there's a point at which you need to go between the two. Yeah, it could be the same here with the rut situation, but that's a great drive by Woolridge, and pressure on now. Christine GZ needs to get out there and send it and keep that gap similar.
So Lance will come into the switch zone. He's got his hand on the pit limiter. Pulls to a stop, and only once the car is good into neutral can they start the switch process. So he gets out. He's a big old chap to unfold himself out of the car.
Insert goes in for Christine GZ. She's been doing some ice racing during the course of the winter. Very different, obviously, to the desert, but it's that feeling of sliding a car around, staying sharp. You know, Katie Munning said yesterday she felt that a lot of the other drivers had either been in the desert or been racing, and that, you know, she wanted to be sharp as well, and you just want seat time, don't you? Of course, the off-season, really, what's it been, Jenny? 6 weeks? It feels
2
like
seconds?
maybe 8. Yeah, it's not long. There wasn't one.
Yeah,
there wasn't
exactly.
one.
Let's go down to Laura, who's with Lance.
Lance, debut on sand, and for most of that lap, you were up, finishing 2-3 seconds down. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was good. I tried to keep a good flow. It got a bit rough at the end. I maybe took 1 or 2 wrong lines, just lost a bit of momentum. But a lot better than yesterday, you know, being practice. So yeah, let's hope we can build on this.
We shall see. Thanks so much. Well done.
Thank you.
So yeah, a little bit of a mistake down there, but still a really impressive time to put them in second. Now we're going to see what they can do. So just dropping back to third, but it's a really tight gaggle of drivers in this section.
Saying it's a minute 49, that doesn't look right to me.
Oh no, it clicks through after a certain point. It will come up with the proper time. There we go.
That's better. That's better.
Hold your horse.
So 1.71. So catching. That's what they need. GZ committed to that left-hander, rotated the car really nicely. Down there with that low camera, kicks the car a bit sideways on the way in, hanging on to it on the way out. And now she uses the hyperdrive, gaining time still, so just 0.29 down. Christine GZ goes fastest, so Veloce quickest so far. Brilliant drive, and remember, no penalties that we're aware of. Just checking, they're not yet. They've not had a penalty or no investigations for the switch zone at the minute.
And if you haven't listened to it already, go online, download Off Track, which is the official Extreme E podcast, and you can hear the episode with Christine GZ. And if you ever need to put a smile on your face, it is the thing to listen to. She is an absolute ball of energy. She's had a fascinating life up till this point, and she is doing a cracking job in that car.
Yeah, she's been racing, trying so hard, hasn't she, to make it. And I know that sounds mad, but that really is. Racing in America, stuff in Europe, ice racing, just anything, just hustling, basically.
Studying in Manchester, Birmingham. Was it Manchester or Birmingham in the UK? She did a course over here to please her mum and actually ended up doing I think it was a mechanical engineering course. Whatever she did the brilliant thing to get herself into a position where she's now racing on a worldwide stage and doing a really good job. Look, absolutely level on time.
So a little mistake back at the hill, the top of the hill previous, the 2 right-handers, which I think cost a little bit of time. Still quickest, though. This is a fantastic run. I'll tell you what, Veloce will be going, thanks very much. That was a great driver signing over the winter for both drivers. You know, they nicked Christine GZ from XITE. And it's a good move, isn't it? It's a great move.
Ollie Bennett will be looking at this thinking, oh, okay, right, fine. But he had Tamara in the car. Clara is the official driver for this season. So there is such a wealth of talent out there. It's so cool. Whoa,
love to be a fly on the wall for some of the phone calls, wouldn't you, between these various different parties over the winter? Yeah. Get the old text message. Can we arrange a chat at some point? At your earliest convenience. There's
been some funny old places that I've heard of contract negotiations and those sort of initial...
It's great though, isn't it? It's, you know, you want that call as soon as possible, don't you? So I love it. There's nothing I like more than a bit of sneaky negotiation. When you hear the rumours as well in the winter, it's like, so-and-so might be going there. You're like, no way. And then the announcement, you're like, oh, brilliant.
So this is a section now where we saw Lance maybe not take the ideal line. He said he made a couple of mistakes out there. So let's see what Christine does as she swings the car around. To oh, no! She has had a whopper of a crash.
Oh, no. Christine GZ hanging. I think she wasn't sure which way the car's landed. That's what she's upside down, I thought so. Hand on the roof.
Oh, there's a lot of
fluid pouring out there. So... she's going to have to climb out, and this is, Jenny, this is what we said about the sand and digging in. That looked so innocent, and she paid a huge price.
What a shame, because up until that point, she was on for a storming lap and just maybe took a little bit too much risk, but it didn't look like it was going to be that big, and that was a big crash. So
same corner, so it's the same corner Lance had his problem on, Jenny. Look at the lines, bottom of the road here, so Lance was a long way off camber. GZ trying to get out the car, so she's upside down in the car now. It is tricky to get out of these things when up the right way. Lance takes his helmet off.
So the safety team is out there and they will get to her as soon as possible. But just look what happens. So she's going down, takes a bit too much of the rear end. It just slides round and, as you say, fairly innocuous, but a really big crash. She goes over on the side, then over front to back as well. My word, I am so sorry for that team. Veloce have had no end of trouble. How many times have we seen that car in that state?
On board, here we go, coming down the hill. So just kicks sideways, look, digs in, and it's gone. She doesn't have any time to respond there at all. You can hear her screaming on board as the door has come open. She held onto the wheel, which is the right thing to do because you don't want your arms flailing out the vehicle. She's now got hands on the roof, look, release the harness, and then you drop to the ceiling. But Jenny, it's really hard to get out of a car like that. Now from the drone, from the rear, watch for the rear right digging in. There it is.
Oh.
It's so borderline. It's so borderline, isn't it?
Yeah,
great drone flying, by the way.
She is, yeah, really good. She's talking to the medics at the moment, so that's a good positive sign because that was a big impact, and I'm sure all the medical team out there will look after her. The team are going to have a big rebuild on their hands. Look at this, just rolls over on its side, digs in at the back, flips it over to the front. If she was taking part in the gymnastics competition, she would have got 10 out of 10, but unfortunately that is a very awkward landing.
So rear left of the car definitely broken. We're going to see a few more, but I'm looking at how much damage there is. Now remember, we're rolling on sand here, and remember Sarazan hit the ground hard last year with the roll cage, so the only thing which needs to remain undamaged for them to rebuild the car is the safety seal, the roll cage that the driver sits in. She doesn't hit it on the first hit, and a lot of the energy is gone by the time the second hit comes on the roof of the car. So I'm hopeful that Veloce will be able to repair that, Jenny. Having said that, they've only got a couple of hours to do so. There's a whole corner off it. Ian Davies on the right, he's on the phone already. That's Scooter.
She's still in there.
Okay, yeah. Still in the car, so that... Okay. Look, the most important thing here is that Christine is okay. Nothing else matters. It's a car, it's a sport, it's fine. So they'll be just checking that she's comfortable in the car, whether or not she feels she can get out safely. That's race control. They'll be making decisions now about what we do. Obviously, it's a red flag, so the course is closed for now while they decide how to get Christine out the car.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really big impact as well for Christine. So she'll automatically get checked out by the medics. They'll make sure she's okay. They'll make sure she hasn't picked up anything that's too bad of an injury. But there was only one car left to go after the Veloce Racing car. That's the brand new team of McLaren. And if I was them, having watched that, I think I'd be a little bit, well, it gives you the fear, doesn't it, when you've seen a big incident like that?
We've said all morning, this track is big risk versus reward in terms of lap time. They were doing a brilliant job, Jenny. We were singing the praises of a great driver signing by Veloce, both of them, Lance and Christine. You've got to go flat out. You know, you've got to push for it. You've got to go for it. That's what she was doing. They were up. They were going for the fastest time, top of the table. That's where Veloce want to be. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off.
No, it didn't. It did not at all. Emma Gilmore, Tanner Faust preparing to take the McLaren onto track for their first time as McLaren in Extreme E. They will have a wait, but the most important thing, and I think, is that Christine out the car now? Yeah, so she's standing out of the car, and that's an important sign for everybody, a relief, I think, for everybody to see she's out. She will need a little bit of assistance, I think, but good on her. Christine GZ is a fabulous person. She's just getting assisted away from the vehicle, taken to the medical centre. Tough time.
Okay, we're going to have a chat with Lance Woolridge in the command centre right now. Lance, you were absolutely flying, brilliant first lap, and your teammate Christine GZ was flying as well. She's out of the car, and I know that'll be your first thought, is that she's okay.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just glad she's okay. That's been a bit of a nasty corner all weekend so far, so very, very unfortunate, but I'm glad she's okay.
Focusing on the positives, obviously both of you were super quick. You must be pleased with the pace, but I guess now a bit of work for the team to do as well. Do you think you can get back out there? I'm looking at the car. I wasn't sure how hard the impacts were on the roof.
Yeah, let's have a look once the car's back. You know, for sure we'll have all hands on deck, including myself and Chris. You know, we'll climb into it. We're fighters. We've got to make sure the car's ready. That's what we're here to do. So yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, look, send our best to Christine, please. Make sure she's okay for us, and we wish you guys the best of luck repairing the car. Hope to see you in Q2.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
Well, there we go, Jenny. So Lance, I'd forgot, of course, last year he was their reserve driver, and he's actually a very handy mechanic, and he was there as team advisor. He's going to be hands-on. Here we go.
It's going to have to be hands-on. Let's have another look at it.
Yeah.
You can just see the car. I mean, Lance said it had been a tricky corner for them all weekend. I wonder if the other teams had felt the same thing. It's always hard to know, isn't it? But certainly, I think as they came down there, it just ran wide and took the wrong line.
We've seen the mistakes. Everybody's, you know, the fact Lance ran wide, didn't he, and ended up off the side of the course there. We've seen cars getting more and more sideways. We were even saying, had Lance chosen that alternate line because of how bad the ruts were in that corner, if any corner was going to catch it out, that's where we said, didn't we? Downhill, off camber corner, with the sand building up. Carl Leduc said yesterday it's not, you know, it's not super soft sand where you can slide for ages. It doesn't collapse in the same way. we've discussed it this morning, is happened.
Just wonder if it lulls you into a full sense of security as well. Some of the drivers were saying it wasn't as technical as they were thinking it was going to be. So when you get to that section, all of a sudden it just catches you out. You think, oh, hang on a minute. This isn't what I wanted to be doing.
This is a commitment course, so it's not a twisty. I'm trying to think back to courses last year. You know, the UK and Sardinia were maybe a bit twistier. You know, even the back section of Senegal. But look how fast we're going. I'd love to see average speed. I wouldn't mind betting this has been our fastest track. Certainly in terms of, obviously they all vary in terms of length. But, you know, they're using a hyperdrive in about 5 different places, Jenny. Most tracks, there's only been one place where you can use it, so it is ultra-high speed. And as you say, maybe then you just come into this one corner that isn't ultra-high speed and you've got to wind your neck in a bit. But that's easy for us to say, not sitting in the car. Were they on the radio going, you're on it, you know, keep pushing? Or were they on the radio going, take it easy? We don't know that. I'd love to know, because it was a brilliant run, but...
Yeah. I feel so disappointed for her, for Lance, for the entire team, because it just must be heartbreaking to see that happen. You can see the McLaren guys down there, Emma Gilmore in the car, just getting briefed, I expect, on what's going on. Lena Gade is the race engineer. You saw her just putting the headset on. She's in command center at the moment. Tanner Faust in there as well. There she is. Lena Gade, fantastic race engineer. I have maximum respect for her. And McLaren have brought in her and her sister, Tina.
Brilliant.
Lena and Tina Gade will be helping to run that team and doing a cracking job out there. She's mastered many, many WEC and Le Mans wins under her belt. She's done a few other championships, and now she's found a home with McLaren and Extreme E, and I'm delighted that she's come in.
Absolutely, that's brilliant, isn't it? I was in Mexico last weekend with Formula E, and we had FIA Girls on Track were out there as well, and they were trying to inspire 200 young girls in Mexico to take up a career in motorsport, not necessarily just as a driver, but you know, that's a great example. We've seen team managers, we've seen engineers. There are a huge number of jobs out there for you in this sport, whether you're male or female. You know, the door's not closed. You just gotta work really hard.
It's literally open.
It is.
The door is open. Right, let's have a look at our leaders at the moment. Fastest so far. First into the car, it was Johan Kristoffersen. Michaela Arlen-Kotelinski is the partner this year. Molly Taylor having moved aside to JBXE. So what could they do? Well, you could just see how aggressive the rocky part was, but Kristoffersen running ragged, running wide here, but taking a really good line in, and a good course of speed actually into this fast section, Andrew.
Yeah, they were early in the running, weren't they? When there was rain, you could see he had his wipers on.
Arlen Kotelinski then taking up the steering wheel, and she did another really impressive job out there for the team. First time out there in anger for RXR.
Look at those big steering inputs, Jenny. I can't help thinking about poor old Christine GZ and how unlucky she was. You know, it's half a turn of the wheel. It's a bad bounce. And we saw, didn't we, a bad bounce, in fact, for Michaela. She ended up slightly offline, but she pulled it back, and it went the way she wanted it to. I mean, it went brilliantly. They're top of the table. So, but risk versus reward. How close do you come to not getting it, or you know, having a big shunt? It's such a gamble.
Well, Seb and Christina, second at the moment overall. That puts you on pole in heat number 2 as well. Thoughts have to now turn to side-by-side racing. What do you make of your position going into Q2?
I don't know, we need to wait also to McLaren, but at the moment it's going to be difficult in any heat is very difficult because all the teams are very, very hard. So we need to wait and see in which position we are, and we'll see.
And thoughts as well on the crash that we've just seen for Veloce. GZ obviously rolling the ar. She looks to be okay, thankfully, but just a word on that and how easy that is to do when you just go on the wrong side of the limit.
Yes, we know that it's tricky, especially when you have some sand with some ruts. The car can get the grip sometime in the middle of the corner, and then it's easy to roll the car. So it's a part of the game. We need to stay on the right side of the limit, but sometimes it's quite close. So we know it, especially because it's a fast stage. So yeah, it's tricky.
It's a fast course and it's drying out now as well. The sun just thankfully coming out here in the paddock. We did have rain later. How do you see the course changing as well?
Yeah, it was quite wet in the morning. We see that it's drying up, but now we will all drive together in the same heats until the end of the weekend. So it will not make a difference. It will be the same for everybody.
Thank you very much. Best of luck, guys.
So Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez talking from X44, and it's a really interesting point actually that when all 5 cars are out on track, you're not going to be able to pick your desired line. You're going to be pushed out to where you might not feel comfortable, and that could see even more problems for the cars.
Now P2 at the moment, Loeb and Gutierrez, who we've just spoken to, X44 last year as champions of qualifying everywhere, on board now. Let's just look at the movement in the car, not so much the rocky section, that's fairly low speed, but yeah, Loeb said it, didn't he? It's just there, up on 2 wheels. Jenny, you saw Loeb at the end of his run. We'll see it right at the end of this. Watch for Sebastian being on 2 wheels. Arguably the best rally driver of all time, you know, with 9 FIA world titles to his name. I'm sure that'll start a row on social media. You know, there's, but either way, he had that moment as well.
And watch the moment, because it's far more problematic than Christine GZ's. It's just that it landed the right side up for him, and for Christine it didn't. And that's the rub of the green sometimes, the way it goes. But we're just about to see it here as he comes across. We'll go on board and then take the long shot.
So he hits grass on the way into the corner. Look how sideways he is, but also he straightens the wheel out and allows himself to run wide of the apex. You know, so there's a point at which you go, I don't want to be too rotated. Here, look, he's on 2 wheels. Now watch, he goes to turn in. The car immediately goes very sideways, straightens the wheels a little and maybe allows it to run out. But yeah, it could have gone either way. But also it's not as rutted, Jenny. For me, you know, they were early in the running order. Where were they?
Fourth in the running order.
Fourth, yeah, so we're now down to 9th. So there's another 5 cars have run over that twice. There's 10 more sets of ruts through there. We've had the rain, you know, the track conditions change all the while. But there you go. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, a little bit like a bucking bronco out there at the moment, isn't it? They got a 5-second penalty as well for not getting into the bay fully when they went into the switch zone. So a little bit of a reprimand for them. And we've seen lots of penalties, but the biggest penalty, I suppose, paid for by Veloce Racing with Christine GZ. You can just see the car being forklifted away fairly unceremoniously. They'll be desperate to get that car back into the paddock so they can see exactly the extent of the damage. But it was a big old impact there for Christine GZ. That's why we've got the red flag. If you're just joining us, you've missed a little bit. And there's Christine. She's got a bit of an injury to her leg. She's very uncomfortable there, bless her. And into the medical centre. We shall leave her in peace. But the car also not looking too good.
There's a corner off the car. The roof looks okay. The team will attempt to repair it either way, but I have to say, seeing Christine hobbling along like that, I think it's going to be tricky for her to drive the car. But we'll see. You know, a few painkillers and some strapping. Drivers have done some pretty amazing things over the years. Rear right corner, Jenny, does look crushed, look from the roof where the grid play logo is on the Veloce machine. So we'll see. Now, pressure's building for McLaren XE. Those guys have been sitting on the start line for about 20 minutes waiting for their run. We're going to have a catch-up with Emma Gilmore. Let's see if she's feeling it.
Well, Emma, having seen or heard of the crash to GZ, how are you feeling right now sitting on the start line?
I'm glad she's okay, and yeah, I just feel for the team. I know how disappointing that is, but I mean, it's just like rallying. We just focus forward, do focus on the job we've got in front of us now.
And I guess for you, it doesn't change the approach, does it? It's still going to be full send out there.
Yeah, I mean, the section where the team told me she got caught out, I mean, it's a dangerous part of the track, so you definitely have to respect it. I mean, Loeb had a moment there earlier, so it's a difficult part, and well, the whole track has its parts that can catch you up, but yeah, that's definitely a nasty part.
Thank you very much. You're about to start, so we shall go. Good luck.
Thank you.
So yeah, Emma's smiling, but that's not a situation I'd want to be in. There's Tanner Faust, new name to the championship. If you're not familiar with Tanner, he's a bit of an off-road legend, really. Plenty of rallycross experience at all levels.
He's really gnarly as well, which I like.
He pushed hard yesterday. He really pushed hard yesterday. Tanner was absolutely flying. Emma was too. They set a great time. They got a couple of penalties because Tanner took a flag down and by making a jump out of a huge piece of grass somewhere that nobody else had been all weekend. Yeah, he's the only American to have won a round of both the World Rallycross and the European Rallycross Championship. One of the first drivers to come across and adopt that discipline. But over in the States, he's done side-by-side racing rallycross. Was in Nitro Rallycross last year. He's been Formula Drift champion twice, and he does stunt driving for Hollywood movies. And there was definitely some stunt driving yesterday in that free practice run, Jenny.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just such a quality driver, isn't he? I'm delighted that he's come to the championship and he's part of McLaren. Of course, Emma Gilmore, the first female to drive for McLaren as well. So some fairly groundbreaking moments. And Zach Brown, who oversees the whole of the McLaren racing team, I think has pulled a masterstroke with some of the moves they've made. Really strong, launching all 4 of their cars at the same time this year as well. And employing Tina and Lena was also a joy. So lots to look forward to. Just 1 car left to go out there. And Emma Gilmore has had an incredibly long wait, hasn't she? She has, yeah. And she's been waiting, of course, since earlier last year because she signed for McLaren. And once she signed for McLaren, Veloce, you know, she was with Veloce, remember, for a couple of events last year when Jamie Chadwick was off doing W Series. And so she didn't finish the season. So she's been waiting, couldn't even go home to New Zealand, of course, because of the restrictions. But she's absolutely loving the experience of being with McLaren, and I can't wait to see what these guys can do. 1 car left to go. Yeah, this is XITE Season 2 qualifying round 1. It is the Desert X Prix in NEOM, Saudi Arabia, as we wait for the last car to take to the line in qualifying.
Good luck.
So they shut the door, yeah, I heard good luck, shut the door, and now they're ready. The grid will be cleared.
I always think those moments where you have to wait around for a red flag must be just horrible.
But any time I've competed in anything, I hate the waiting. Like, I'd rather get up at 7 in the morning.
You surprise me.
And go and do it. Well, you know I don't like waiting anyway. If anyone who's ever been in a queue with me at an airport will know that I'm not the world's most patient person, but it's not about that for me. It's the fear, Jenny. You know, like the nerves and the adrenaline. I wish I was into all these people. I'm terribly nervous when I compete, and I just want to get out there. Because once you get going, you're all right. You know, the adrenaline comes out in the performance, and you love it. But when you're sitting there waiting, and particularly when you know it's coming, you build up, and then someone goes, hang on a minute, you're going to have to wait. It's horrible. It's awful.
I can only imagine, but I can imagine, yeah.
You and me are going for a ride in one of these cars at some point, yes. Jenny. We're arranging that. We're going to experience it. I'll sit with you if you sit with me. Wuss.
I'm not so sure about
You're
that.
a wuss.
Look,
come on.
You asked me before how good a driver I was. I said great, excellent. Quite flippantly. Yeah. How good a passenger I am. Absolutely terrible.
Okay,
I hate being a passenger.
Yeah.
If you want to get in touch with us, by the way, on socials, you can do. It's #XtremeE. We'd love to hear from you wherever you are watching in the world. Let us know. What are you up to today? Hopefully you're enjoying it. Season 2, full of thrills and spills once again.
It is. I'm just looking at the Continental Traction Challenge, and I think Timmy Hansen is still quickest, 105.810. Oh, no, yes, he is, yeah. So there's another 105.9, which was
Nasser
Al-Attiyah, yeah. So Nasser's right up. What, you know, this is... I'm excited about Nasser, I really am. I think that's made them a huge threat. And looking at the spread of times across, if you take out the 5-second penalties for a number of different teams, down the left-hand side of your screen now, most of those teams have had a 5-second penalty, believe it or not. And if you take them out, actually they get super close together. Abt Cooper missed the finish line and then elected to go back and cross it, which they probably shouldn't have done because they'd only got a 5 or 10-second penalty for missing that gate, and then they would have been a lot higher up. But there you go. They'll have had a debrief. JBXE had a problem with the car. Veloce Racing have had a fairly sizable shunt, and we wait to see if both the car and Christine GZ will be fit to return. Jenny, you mentioned they might have a reserve driver with them themselves, but we're not sure, are we, on the regulations for that?
Well, so it has come out, and she is the Veloce Junior driver, but she's now taken the championship driver role for the weekend because, of course, Tamara Molinaro has gone into the seat at XITE. So we'll see what happens there. We'll keep you updated. But it is McLaren. It is time for Emma Gilmore, the first female driver for McLaren ever to take to the track in qualifying round 1.
McLaren makes their debut in XtremeE right now. Yeah, okay, yes, they free practice, but that's not proper, is it? This is proper. great to see the car. I love the fact they revealed the liveries and the cars all together, you know, F1, like everything. It just great to see them giving that respect to the off-road side of the business as well. And as we've already said, Gilmore and Faust is a formidable driver lineup.
Yeah, it really is. And I think Emma Gilmore went out there yesterday and used it as a little bit of a recce run, but gained a lot of confidence and a lot of understanding from what they did. They had an unfortunate section where they came into the switch zone far too hot. By far too hot, I don't mean a couple of kilometres an hour. They should have hit it at 30. They came in at 52. So they got a huge penalty for doing that. Unfortunate, because you get a 1 second penalty for each kilometre an hour over you go. But I think they found it very useful out there yesterday.
Yeah, and then Faust took a flag out, of course, on his run. But it was Tanner's first run. Emma, of course, had a couple of events last year. It was Tanner's first full power, full lap run. They were allowed to do limited testing, as the other teams were at the start of last season, which is you get X amount of run time at half power, you get a couple of laps at full power, so they don't really get much time to gather data. They did it in a very McLaren way, didn't they? Going out, trying stuff, and trying to get as much data as they could. Emma leaning on the car through that rutted section. One thing, Jenny, that I think we should point out is they are last on this course, which has rutted up quite a lot in a number of places. Having seen the shunt with Veloce, they may well have said, look, this is our first race weekend. This is the approach we want you guys to take. So
I think Emma will take a more conservative approach to this. I think, understandably, she's the first one out on track after having seen a very big crash, and they don't need to go out there and set the world alight right now. This is qualifying one. However, I will be fascinated to see what Tanner does, because yesterday he pushed, and there was no holding him back. And I just wonder, will he have the same attitude today, or will it slightly differ now?
I'd like to see the same attitude for, you know, I'd like to see full send, but really, we got a whole nother qualifying session to come, which is racing. Then we got semis and finals tomorrow. We've got a very talented field, some of whom have had penalties, remember. So, you know, you could take the slightly more measured approach. I think we're being a little bit too measured maybe now, but Emma just will want to bring the car back in. You know, remember, say everybody else is +5. Well, a lot of the others are +5 anyway.
I think it's super stressful having to go out in the position that she has. Just having seen a big crash, you've had to wait in the car maybe for half an hour. She uses hyperdrive now. Let's see if she can get some pace and carry that in. The momentum will be good coming off of this section.
It must be great, mustn't it, to be the first female driver for McLaren? It must just be a brilliant feeling.
Such a marker in the sand, though, isn't it? The momentum is shifting. You can really feel it right now. There is a more diverse background to motorsport than we've ever had before, and I have to say that it's taken a long time to get there, but now you can really feel it shifting.
So here we go, coming down to that tricky part, the long left-hander. There's the sand dune that Loeb kicked up on 2 wheels with. And Emma lifting off big time, taking it steady through there. That is definitely the right approach to that part of the track.
So difficult, though, because the conditions, as you say, have changed so much from when the first cars went out this morning. And
that's what Loeb was saying about racing. So when Laura said, oh, you know, what about the weather now? And Sebastian was like, oh, runs a bit deep over the crest. Sebastian said, effectively, I don't care because I'll be on track with everybody else. And that's right. You know, it's like semis and finals. Doesn't matter because it all comes down to position. So your lap time's kind of irrelevant.
Right, into switch zone for Emma. She's not set the fastest time. I think she'll be slightly disappointed with that, but she has got the car round safely. 26 seconds down, so she'll come into the switch zone, hand over to Tanner Faust, and let's see what he can do, because he's going to have to drive like the wind to get them further up in qualifying.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the order now. So it's a 9:03 for Rosberg X Racing at the top of the table. It's a 9:21 for Carlos Sainz and Laia Sainz in Acciona Sainz. So they're probably within reach, aren't they? What are we, +26? So at the minute, they're 5 seconds off that in theory. You know, this is with a whole lap to go, remember. I think potentially P3 is within reach if Tanner goes for super risk.
Wow, do you?
Yeah, I do.
That is big.
Yeah,
I suppose if they can do a clean lap.
He'd have to go he would have to go fully lit to get there. They are some 11 seconds, so he'd have to make 15 seconds on this lap. I don't know. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Maybe not. We've had some very, very quick drivers go on that second lap.
So you can just see Emma struggling to get the straps off, and just, well, she's actually trying to release off the grip before she undoes them so that Tanner can get in, pull the straps on after they've clipped up, and then do them up nice and tightly. So he just reaches behind them. That elastic bung system.
And it's bad down that turn 22.
So she just said it's bad down at turn. I wasn't sure. She
22,
said,
I think.
Right, okay.
Which is the one we all know about now.
Interestingly, no engineer going out to help with the belts, just the two drivers doing it between themselves. Tanner will make sure his hands device is under the belts. He struggled a bit with that yesterday.
Difficult run for Emma, I think.
Really tricky. Just misses the barriers on the way out. So coming up to the exit now. And now Faust launches into his lap. So, yeah, incredible history to this guy, Jenny.
Yeah, he really has got all of the plaudits. A lot of different, I think, disciplines that he's taken part in as well. 2021 Nitro RX and the Audi, 2019 ARX champion for VW. He's a two-time GRX champion with Ford. I mean, the list goes on and on. He's a Hollywood stunt driver. He has done it all. I think he was a Top Gear presenter as well in the US.
He was Top Gear in the US. Tanner's a bit of a legend. He's a lovely bloke as well. He really is. Absolutely loves flying. He's got a little plane that he flies to a lot of his jobs in. He did some flying yesterday in the Extreme E car when he went slightly off course at the side of the road.
Oh, look at that. His teeth are gritted. He's really out there giving it everything. He knows he's got to claw back time. That's what he's doing at the moment.
I did notice that the hands device under the belts, he was adjusting it on the way out, so the stewards will have to decide whether or not they feel it's in the right position. I think it was sufficiently under the belts. 25 down at this point, and Tanner's going to have to attack big time, I think, to make up time.
The rear end of the car looks really unstable, though. We've seen some of them really planted this weekend, and that, to me, doesn't look as planted as some of the others.
Well, remember, these guys don't have the data, Jenny. So last year, you know, the other teams were able to go, right, let's try it super soft, let's try it super stiff, let's do this, let's do that to the tyre pressures. Tanner's losing time as well, so I think potentially my idea of them getting up to P3 is definitely not going to happen on this lap. But they're last to go, and you know, have we underestimated somewhat? Is this the course which has developed the most in the history of Extreme E, which admittedly is only the 5 events, but has it developed that much? I think it might have done. You know, looking at the ruts and things, some of the corners where if you're looking at risk versus reward, you just have to back it off a little bit. I think potentially going last is hard work for these guys.
Yeah, a little bit of a disadvantage for them, which is a shame. It was done on a lottery draw, but he's gained 1 position now into 9th, and he'll continue to try and catch and hunt down the rest, which is what he's doing right now.
And that, of course, is why we want to get to racing as soon as possible. So, you know, we're going to be looking at more racing later in this season, racing all through qualifying maybe. And I like that idea, because then the track developing doesn't make any difference. We've got more cars now than we had last year as well, and it's more competitive. So Tanner is matching the pace of all the other drivers before him. So if you remember, Emma came in with a 25-second deficit, and Tanner is bang on that. So Tanner is absolutely on the pace of whoever was in the car second. So we're talking the likes of Loeb, Hansen, Sainz, Nasser Al-Attiyah. So we know the pace is there, but I think he's going to struggle to get that car much further up the order. So JBXE, of course, had a problem after this, as did Veloce. They'll definitely get up, won't they? I think they'll get at Cooper as well, won't they, because of the problem they had finished. So it should be good for P7, I think.
Yeah, somewhere around there. P6, P7, I'm hoping for them, and I'm hopeful for them. You can see the car is really moving around, though. This is the section that everybody's had the problems. He's going far to the left, and look, he's just having to... I mean, these Odyssey 21s are great cars. They're heavy, they're beautiful, they're great fun, but they are a real challenge for these drivers.
Gaining time through that section, which is really tricky, so Faust is continuing to push, and you can see from his gritted teeth, he was on it in the McLaren. He's only got a couple of gates left to go. Where can they get this car up to? Up and over the crest now, comes around the long right-hand of the final car in Q1, coming down towards the line. Going to end the session here. Where do McLaren slot in on their first ever competitive run in Extreme E? And it is P7 for Faust and Gilmore. They're just 5 seconds off the back of the Acciona Sainz squad. Good debut, I think. Good, safe debut. They were 10th on the road, Jenny. You know, they managed the risk versus what the conditions were like out there. And they'll be heading through to Q2. Only a question mark for that session over Veloce at the minute.
Yeah, so I've just been speaking to the team who say, let me just give you an update on Christine GZ, because they have said that, hang on a moment, sorry, caller hold the line. They have said that she's got a sprained ankle. She's gone to the medical centre for further assessments, and she will get checked over fully, and they will see how she is. But obviously a big impact for Christine GZ and Veloce, not being able to post a time, the only car to do that.
Yeah, tricky for her. Obviously, we wish her all the best. Easy to sprain your ankle, your legs flail around when the car's rolling. She could also have been on the brake pedal and you slide off the side with the impact, you know, tricky.
So let's look at the results for the Desert X Prix qualifying one. RXR in first, then it's X44, then it's the Genesis Andretti United team. Well, we've got a change of luck, hopefully, for Chip Ganassi. They're in fourth and fifth. It's XITE with Molinari and Bennett doing a really good job to get themselves that high up in the board.
Yeah, impressive session, wasn't it? All the teams so close together. Tanner Faust has made it back to the paddock. You can see they're parked up just in front of their tent. We can have a chat with him now about his first run in Extreme E.
Well, a huge sigh of relief, frustration. I'm not sure what that was, Tanner. Your first competitive run here on the sand. Is it fair to say the course has evolved? Is it getting tougher out there?
I think it is. I think it's getting a bit rougher. Just the bumps are just getting sharper. And that sigh was, I mean, my head is a pinball between these two wings here. So it's like my eyeballs are pointed different directions for half the lap, it feels like. But yeah, ultimately good to get that under the belt. I think there are a lot of nerves. Watching, unfortunately, Chris do her roll. That is a brutal section there. I mean, really, it's hard to describe, but you literally cannot even see the flag because you're shaking and your head's bouncing around so much. So a lot of respect for the competitors who push hard through this. I gained some respect yesterday in practice for how bumpy it is, but the course is getting rougher.
One car at a time is one thing. We've got side-by-side racing this afternoon. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, honestly, with so little time on the track, it's going to be very tricky for everybody because currently you can pick your own line, but with 5 cars, you're going to have that choice made for you sometimes. So you're going to have to take what you can get, and it can be very difficult to see which bumps are safe to hit and which ones will wreck the car.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, of course. Learned a lot yesterday is quite telling, isn't it? You know, flat out run in the Odyssey 21. That little sideways moment off the side. But a good session, I think. And maybe, Jenny, the times down the right don't quite say how close it was because of the little mistakes we saw from people in the switch zone.
Yeah, I think the penalties, as you say, adding up, didn't really give us a clear picture. I think App Cooper should be way further up there. They had a big mistake, lost about 35 seconds by having to loop back to take the finish. So this is possibly the closest weekend we've seen in Extreme E so far.
And yet it's pretty familiar, the names of the teams at the top of the table. Rosberg X Racing and X44, despite a driver change for the former team, they're both right up there again. Lovely to see Genesis Andretti United in the mix. Yeah, fantastic. Those are the heat races on the right-hand side. So remember, this was 1 by 1. In the next session, we go racing.
Ouchie. That's all I'm going to say because this is set up beautifully, isn't it? So you've got X44 and RXR in separate qualifying heats. Heat 1, Heat 2. That looks like it could be really feisty racing out there. The first of our qualifying sessions to take place as a 5-car race. And then how they qualify through, we will explain later on, but it sets it up to be absolutely thrilling. You've seen qualifying, you've seen 10 cars take on this track, and now it's going to be a case of 5 by 5 as they go racing out there to decide who goes through to which of the semi-finals.
Semi-finals going to be crucial, aren't they? 2 go through from each of the 3-car semis, and then we've got a 4-car crazy race, and only 1 car goes through from there.
Let's go back down and find out what's happening in the paddock because there's been plenty of action so far this morning. Of course, the crash for Veloce. Laura Winter's down there for us.
Well, Ian, Scooter, commiserations, hard luck. I think the whole audience watching will be gutted because it was such a brilliant run from both of your drivers. A word on GZ. How is she doing? What's going on at the moment?
Yeah, she's gone to the, well, she came out of the car, went to medical centre. She clearly has a problem with her left ankle. She can't put any weight on it. So generally speaking, she's good, you know, but her left ankle is a worry. So she's now gone to hospital for scans. But in general, she's she's doing okay.
Is that game over for you today? Or are you going to try and get back out there?
No, and clearly we're going to try. You know, I'm a rally man, and we can fix most things in 45 minutes in a car. So we haven't seen the car yet. We've only seen pictures. So you know, we need to assess the car when it comes back, but we want to try and make it this afternoon. Obviously, a little bit depends on Christine's outcome, but also whether we can use the reserve driver if Christine's leg is in trouble.
Well, thank you. Hard luck, and our best wishes to GZ as well, and to you guys getting that car ready.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Interesting what he said, we've only seen pictures, so he's looking at what you're looking at now, and this is what me and Jenny were talking about when we try and, you know, analyse what happened with the crash, which is what we saw here. GZ turns in, she gets slightly too sideways, the rear right digs in, boom. Now look, the roof doesn't touch, the front corner does, then the nose comes down quite hard, and finally there's a corner off the car as well. Now, you know, we're looking at pictures, he says, Jenny, they're frantically looking at this and basically making a pile of the parts that they think they will need. Literally in the corner of the tent, they think they will need it, and then they'll get the guys to work as fast as they possibly can to get it mechanically sound first and then looking pretty afterwards. So it can look horrendous, it doesn't matter as long as it can go. But he did mention they need to know if they can use that reserve driver.
Yeah, so the reserve driver this weekend is Hedda Hossas. She's part of Veloce, actually. She's been lent to the championship to be a reserve driver, so we'll see. But just have to say, a lot of the other teams, I'm sure, will rally because that's the nature of Extreme E, and they will try and help as much as they can with preparation to get that Veloce car racing. They all want to see all of the cars out there competing.
So we're going to ride on board now with Johan Kristoffersson and Sebastian Loeb. Johan on your left for Rosberg X Racing, Loeb on your right for X44. And this, you know, this is picture matched, if you like, so that this is through the two different sections. They were, how far apart were they in the running order? They were right behind each other, so RXR was one car back from X44. So
of course, standard now.
Yeah.
It's a lottery, but...
Look, so, sorry, Kristoffersson was quicker through that section. He then goes off to the right-hand side, takes an alternate line. Loeb stays in the main set of ruts up towards the braking zone. They're late on the brakes, look, the car moving around, but you use those ruts, use the sand to suck the pace out. Kristoffersson is just through the flag early, gets the car turned in. Loeb also so close, isn't it? And what fascinates me, Jenny, when you go over these long distances with rally, cross, rally, raid, Extreme E, you get to the end of the lap and they're only a couple of tenths or a couple of seconds apart, but during the course of the lap, it's ebbed and flowed massively. Like sometimes you can be 2-3 seconds up. Look, Kristoffersson's off to the left here and Loeb stays in the ruts again, so they're searching out these little things, and then you get to the end and you just find that the two cars are super close together. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is, and watching two drivers have such incredible confidence in the car. You can just see level pegging. Let's have a look at some of the highlights then. So this is the Abt Cupra car, and it was Kleinschmidt and Alatea first out. A new pairing for this season. Kleinschmidt ever so comfortable with her new teammate because they've both done Dakar plenty of times, and they've both won Dakar, 5 titles between them. And Jutta, you can see the sun shining at that point, and the course nice and new for them.
Yeah, the Tavascan XE looking very good, wasn't it, up and over the crest. Alatea, this I think was the moment, well, so this was Jutta coming in. I'm gutted he missed the finish, Jenny, because, you know, it was, what was their time? Was it a 9:10 or was it a 9:14, or I believe? So it was definitely, it was top 4 or 5, wasn't it? And instead they've ended up down in P8. They'll have to go for it in this next one, but both Jutta and Nasser are more used to racing on their own than they are in racing a pack. Nasser actually did do a season, believe it or not, in World Touring Cars as well. So, oh, and by the way, he's an Olympic bronze medal skeet shooter from London 2012. So
cool.
He's a horribly talented man, but who's also always smiling, isn't he? And just a great addition to this series.
Horribly talented man. That comes from us, doesn't it?
Yeah,
when you sit in a commentary box and talk about it rather than do it.
Those who can't talk about it, yeah. No, he's lovely. And you met him down in Spain. I know he was super smiley, wasn't he, about this season? And the Hummer EV and Chip Ganassi Racing, how fast were they last year? Please, no more bad luck. I can't take more bad luck for these guys. I want to see good results for them.
Yeah, they've done a good job out there to qualify through in 4th place. And you can just see Sarah and Kyle pairing up to, I think, to growing confidence between them, and they just need some consistency in that luck and good fortune, and then they are sailing. Really, really confident in these two. I'm
really glad that the team retained both of them. You know, at the start of the season, poor old Kyle, the first event last year, if you remember, he hit the rocks in free practice. He hit Claudia Hurtgen in the crazy race. They had an absolutely shocking start, but his maximum attack driving through the rest of the season was so much fun to watch. Sarah was rapid as well, and it was heartbreaking for me in Sardinia when their steering broke. So they, you know, we know they're quick. Andretti United, we know these guys are quick as well. Remember, they took a win last year between them, Katie and Timmy, and they're looking impressive here. P3, bang on the pace. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I think they're enjoying their time out there, and they did make a couple of mistakes. They got that penalty for not coming to fully inside the base, so you can just see how far Timmy had to go out to switch over. But when he was in the car, he was rapid. We said he's got a new haircut. He's obviously doing it the power of good, because he was out there and set a really decent time. And in fact, they've got the fastest time in the Continental Traction Challenge as well at the moment, with a 1 minute 5.810. So that could be an extra 5 points if they can keep a hold of it.
Yeah, and really, really committed through that section where we saw the issue earlier on for Veloce. Timmy carried so much speed through that corner, but they were third on the road. So conditions maybe just a little bit smoother through there. Tanner certainly felt. Tanner Faust driving for McLaren are back at the end of the pack. Cristina Gutierrez, X44, on board up at one of the highest points on the course. A lot of elevation change, isn't there, this weekend?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's one of the things that contributes to really exciting racing. I'm not a big fan of the flat.
No, it's
I have
great.
to say.
I'm excited to see like use of hyperdrive. We've seen a couple of people use it uphill. You know, is that going to be a chance to pass if you just hold on and use your hyperdrive up on the hills? I think potentially you could make an easy pass there. We've seen it used in 4 or 5 different places on the flat. We've got a couple of really long straights with maybe some alternate lines. Always amazes me, we don't see any alternate lines, and I understand why. The teams, oh, look at Loeb bicycling into that left-hander. That's where we saw the roll, as we say, for Veloce. Loeb got away with it, they didn't. Yeah, the teams keep these things to themselves, Jenny. You know, what have they held back? Is there a line they know will work? Remember the Loeb fast line in one of the Continental Traction Challenges, Sardinia it was. Didn't reveal it until late into the day. And we may find that when we go racing.
Yeah, and racing this afternoon with our 2 different sets of heats. And interestingly, RXR and X44 will be separated into the 2 different sessions. So it'll be really interesting to see what they can do. But just looking at the skill and mastery of Christopherson and Loeb when they're out on track, they are phenomenal drivers.
We'll have to wait until we see the standings at the end of today to see whether they'll meet in the semis, or we may have to wait until we get the Battle of the Titans back again in the final. If you're wondering how the split works, basically they've gone with the top 10. It's odds go to race 1 and evens go to race 2 today. So that's just how they've split them up. And then tomorrow, obviously, with the semi-finals, it's a little bit different. What is it? P1, P5 and P6, I think. It's, you know, we like to do things our own way. What is it, Jenny? Go on.
From the intermediate classification, which is made up after today, 1, 4 and 5 go to semi-final 1, 2, 3 and 6 to semi-final 2, and then 7, 8, 9 and 10 go into the crazy race.
Yeah, there you go. So there was a change, wasn't there, to make the two first semi-finals, because we felt, remember, last year it was 1, 5 and 6, wasn't it, which gave a huge advantage to the people in P1. So you're going up against people that aren't as quick. This was Lance Woolridge for Veloce. Bang on the pace, just ran a little bit deep in the corner. Let's him crossed up. Look, they were on the limit, and then Christine GZ took over, and they were on the pace of Rosberg X Racing, reigning champions. They were ahead. They had a pink on the clock, you know, meaning they were leading, and then unfortunately it just went wrong.
Yeah, you can just see the car comes down, just takes too much angle, flips through twice, and the reaction in the command centre, obviously one of shock and horror at first. Christine getting checked up at the local hospital. She's injured her left ankle after that crash. The team will do what they can to get it back up and running for the second part of qualifying.
Katie, 3rd overall, good session. How did you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. We were happy to get a clean run. We've always kind of struggled in qualifying. We've had some inconsistency as well in the past, so we wanted to have a safe run, so I think that's what me and Timmy went for. Of course, we're happy to be 3rd. We actually picked up a penalty as well, and I know a lot of the field did, so it's about tidying that up. But the ball completely changes now because we're going into head-to-head racing, so it's a different target to focus on.
Well, you said you both had safe runs. Does that mean with head-to-head racing coming up, there's more speed to be had?
I think so. I think, you know, whenever you are next to someone on the track, the red mist gets a bit thicker. So I've definitely noticed that from Extreme in the past. It's not something that I have so much experience with coming from rally, but I definitely think it unleashes an extra 10% in you.
yeah, get some rallycross red mist in you. Thank you very much, Katie. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Katie, looking forward to the racing portion later on today. There is Q1 result on the left-hand side of your screen, and on the right-hand side is how they have been split into those races. So we have a question mark, as we say, of whether or not Lance Woolridge and Christine GZ will make it through to that Heat 1 race, but let's see.
That Heat 1 race looks terrifying. I would not want to be in there. I'd much rather be in the Heat 2 race if I could choose.
I think they're both really strong, Jenny. Like,
I mean,
you want to go up against McLaren and JBXE, and you've got, you know, Andretti United, RXR, and XITE were quick too. Neither of those is an easy race. We are in for an absolute banger of a session later on today, so don't miss it. First time ever we've gone racing during qualifying, remember?
Yeah, it's going to be very different. You can see here they've got the car back now, so the battle on for them to try and fix it for Veloce. They want to claim their place in Heat 1. Will they be able to? I'm sure the other teams will try and help them out, but a very limited number of people are allowed to work on that car. So let's see what happens. We are set up for a stormer of an afternoon.
Yeah, Lance Woolridge already out of his race overalls and into his mechanics overalls. They are going to be spannering that car as fast as they can to see if we can get 2 full 5-car races later on today to finish off qualifying here. Round 1, Saudi Arabia, Season 2 of Extreme E. Do not miss the action later on today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.